Ladies and gentlemen, it is Saturday night. That means Modern Comic Mayhem over here on Beyond Wednesdays. And this is going to be an excellent show tonight. I want to, before we start anything, I want to let everybody know if there's people out there that have been involved in any of the stuff that's happened over the last couple of weeks, and you want to come on the show, I'd love to hear from you tonight. I'm very happy to have people like Skeff, Andy, Jack, people that are coming on the show to talk about it. I for however long they're here, I've got respect for them. And so I want to say thank you to those guys. And we're going to give Andy a little bit of a break until we get a little bit further in this, because he's too busy reading his saga. But make sure to follow.
Read for 85 times.
Yeah. Make sure to follow Comic Man Andy. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Yeezy E, we got Hood here. And Skeff, thank you, man, for so much for jumping on here with us tonight, bro. I appreciate you.
Oh, no problem. The check cleared, so that's good. The check cleared. So my agent told me I could show up, so phenomenal. Thank you for that.
You know, Brian, I'm probably going to piss off a bunch of people, but like I don't care. Like I ordered a book on eBay and last week, and then I saw that the label had just been generated. So it's been a week. I go, hey bro, are you gonna ship it? And he goes, I'm sorry, I live in a small town and it took me a bit. It'll be shipped today. And I go, God damn, dude, it's been a week. And he goes, well, I'm sorry, you know, I'm in a wheelchair, so it makes it hard to get around. And I'm like, dude, you can't make this shit up, right? Like, I go, so I got pissed off. I go, so that's what you do? You just sell books and ship them a week later? I mean, like, are you going to put that on your, like,
well, if you
description?
think you're mad, Hood, think about all these people that put up their Ultimate Fallout 4 books and got $25,000 on their ending bid. You think you're mad? Those guys are going to be mad. Yeah, those guys are going to be mad. All right. That being said,
just don't buy. Well, no, I'm not going to say that, dude. That's kind of mean. Here's what I was going to say, but I don't mean it. Don't buy books from people in wheelchairs. But I'm not going to say that.
He said it.
I'm not going to say
it. That's why we have Hood here, though, ladies.
I love Hood so much. Yeah, so much love for Hood.
And the stream shuts down in 3, 2. No.
Yeah. Oh, we're live. We're live.
You're in? Yeah.
We're live.
So we only have Skeff for a couple more minutes, you guys. But I really wanted to bring on Skeff to kind of, because, you know,
I'm alive. I am alive.
Yes, he is alive, and he's doing very well.
I am.
And I appreciate you for how you handled this, man, and everything. So, what's going on in your world, and how's everything going when it comes to the drama for your mama?
Oh man, the drama for your mama has been it's been eye-opening, life-changing. I don't think I've ever felt better in my entire life right now than after the week that everyone has had. So it's an evolution. It's a new page, it's a new chapter where I get to, like, all right, I see that, oh, I'll remember that, and then, you know, we'll move forward. I'm actually, like, currently getting ready to go to Canada for the end of the month. So I'm getting all the plans.
Jealous.
Yeah, I'm like, get that dude with a jet for you to come out there. Come on.
Yes. I'm so jealous, bro.
Get your butt out there. I am so excited. So right now for me, it's moving forward and staying positive, and finding out who really loves this crazy bearded fool.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I do want to say while you're on here, and I think a lot of us have said it, there's one thing to know people like this, but when you meet Skeff puts off this energy, right? This amazing energy that I've never seen it in any other person that I've met that at all, period. And he's always happy. He's always excited. He's always he seems like a really good dude. And I don't get that feeling from a lot of people right as I meet them. And I appreciate how you're moving forward in this. If anybody takes my word and heeds on it, Skeff's a good dude, you guys. And one of the things that he did say that's very important is that he's learning from this, and that's the most important thing. And that's why we wanted to do the show tonight, because we want people to come on and talk about the learning factor and how everything's going. So, Skeff, continue to do what you do, brother, and go kill that whatnot sale.
I got 8 minutes. I delayed the whatnot just for you, Brian. I said the whatnot people, they got to hold off. Brian asked me to be on the live show, so I let him know, like, all right, guys.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you just a couple questions. So,
absolutely.
One of the things that came out that I think we haven't really got a big talk about is the ability to buy multiple books from Black Flag when it came out. And one of the things that I've said is that people complaining about this, it's kind of silly because it's literally been going on for 30 years. This is how it happens. And maybe if anything, Black Flag could have handled it a little bit differently. Anybody who went up to go get multiple books that are retailers and sellers, that's how it works, you guys. Like, this is how it's been going for years. I've heard multiple people say that they were buying multiple books. Now, you have been one of those people that they're talking about. Can you talk about what was going on there and what was the situation?
So I bought 750 copies. Let's just set the record straight. I bought all of them. No, at the end of the day, I bought a bunch of copies. And it was that thing where, like, I didn't. I picked up a bunch of copies for other people. I mean, no one's going to care. No one's going to care. Like, I can tell you exactly how many copies I picked up for other people, and I can tell you exactly how many copies I picked up for myself, which was 13. Which it doesn't matter. No one's going to believe me anyway. For the people that will believe me, they'll believe me. The people that won't. And I'm just going to move forward from that. So, like, I picked up a bunch of copies for other people. All right. That happened. Moving forward.
Yeah. And again, you guys, that's why I want to key in on, like, I don't think, and I don't know about this, but we'll find out. And when people talk about it, whether they do or not, but I don't think there was anything like evil in this, right? Like, I don't think that it, from the people who were going in line to buy the books, for the people who got into the books, I don't think there was anything evil when it comes to that. Like, people need to realize that this is how it always works. Retailers work with other retailers. It's been happening for years. And you work deals with other retailers. It's just the way it is. And Skeff, you've been going to these cons and doing this 100% for a while now. So, you are one of these people, one of these retailers that's making their living off of this. This is kind of how it works. That being said, is there anything on your opinion that we can learn from this whole thing in the retailer world, the exclusive variant world? Is there anything that you specifically think that we need to keep an eye on and take away from the situation?
I mean, limitations. I think limitations is probably a good concept. So it's, everyone just transparency on that, right?
Key,
otherwise,
right there.
Otherwise, anything can happen, and it did. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you said it. Transparency is key, right? And here's the weird thing. As we bring Bolo on, here's the weird thing. Sometimes transparency can't be transparency across the board all the time. I get it. I mean, we're dealing with big businesses here. We're dealing with lawyers at some point. We're dealing with certain things. But on whatever level you can be transparent, it's only going to help your brand better. Do you feel that way, Skeff?
Yeah, I do. Also, I think it's just a thing too, where it's like there's always that perception of someone, right? Where the perception is different with everybody, but the people, like, I judge the judger, who, you know what I mean? Like, how much value do they actually bring? Like, judging the judger is what I've done this entire week, and that's why I'm so happy and in a positive state. And just gonna grind. I've done a show every single day since Tuesday. I'm doing another one tonight. I'm doing another one Sunday, and then probably Monday. I'm not human. I'll prove that. So, judging the judger has been the most important thing I've learned this entire week.
Well, I'll say it again. How your peers feel about you and what your peers say about you when you're not around is important. you're respected, Skeff, behind the scenes. That's one thing I will tell everybody again. So continue doing what you're doing. I appreciate you. And hey, stick to that transparency thing, because it's only going to help you more in your brand. If anything can help you more, you're killing it. So appreciate you, brother.
No, thanks for the opportunity, man. I'm gonna stick around here for a little bit and just kind of enjoy
Right.
who I'm hanging out with tonight. Red
All
Hood.
Right. Jack, how you doing, brother?
Awesome, man. Awesome. It's been a good weekend.
Oh man, are you back home for the first weekend in a long time?
First weekend in a long time. Yeah, I'm back home. So the kids were giving me a hard time about school starting on Monday. So I took a little time this week, end of the week, and we've been doing some back to school shopping and just having a good time.
Yeah, good. Man, Whatnot has been in the middle of two, whether for real or not, been in the middle of two big conversations lately in the collecting world. Obviously, this whole thing that happened at C2E2, which is going to be the bulk of our talk today, but also the recent 86-87 Fleer basketball box situation that has been going on. And Jack is mainly dealing on the Whatnot comic side, but he dabbles a little bit with the sports cards guy. What are your feelings on what's going on with the 86-87 Fleer basketball box, Jack?
I think it's tough. Like I'm sort of like learning it as we go here. So I think I'm not really in a better position than most other people. Obviously, I was at the National. So I think that this whole thing has really opened my eyes. I think we see it with CGC, just like we see with Baseball Card Exchange, where like we put a lot of trust in these like third party entities who have for a long time have always been like the end all be all say so in the way we view like real collecting and investing value based within the hobbies. And like aside from any job that I do, like I was a collector since childhood. So that stuff like really matters to me. And people make mistakes. Individuals that work for these companies can make poor judgments or something like that. But I think what's concerning is that so much of the market bases our trust on that. And when this trust gets called into question, whether valid or not, that's what's going to be ultimately, I think, interesting in either case. Is like it's concerning. I think that's where a lot of people are like super justified in frustration on all angles. It'll be interesting to see. I think our sports team I know they're a lot closer to this issue and I probably would be able to speak on these. And I know that there will be some sort of public communication on it. I think it's all being investigated at this point.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Brian, real quick?
Of course. Yeah.
Would you guys have bought that book if you knew it was an unauthorized book, that it didn't get the seal of approval from Marvel, and it was fabricated with the acetate and additional staples?
Skeff, before you leave, see if you can give an answer on that. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Professional over here.
Wow, look at this big dumb idiot who's on a microphone. I yell at phones for a living. So if the book was an illegal book and it wasn't like approved by Marvel, it would just be worth more, right?
That's a great freaking point. I mean, to be honest,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's that what if scenario, and I didn't like. It's just like you just look back, you're like, oh, would you have bought it? I mean, no, right? Like, all right, illegal book. Yeah, you probably shouldn't be supporting illegal books, right? It's probably frowned upon in the comic book market. So if it was an illegal book, and like, yeah, probably no, right?
But like if
real quick, Hood, let me just piggyback on that real quick. What was the thoughts when you guys first heard about the book? What was the talk about the book, like being at the con and the line? I mean, what were people saying about it? What did you hear anything like, oh, this is the best book of the con, you already guys knew about it going in. Like what was the situation there when you guys first heard about this book?
It had the longest line. Had the longest line. So there's only a couple options of exclusives, and they're all just like, all right, this looks like this will be the most exciting out of all of them.
sometimes nothing being said is saying the most, and everybody's playing their cards pretty close to their chest in line. There was a lot of not talking about the book in line, and I wish I would have scrutinized that picture on Facebook a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, again, listen, one of the things about our, and I apologize for interrupting you, Hood, when you had a
No, it's all good.
thought process going. One of the things about the game right now, and I don't know if calling it the game is the right way, but the collecting community, especially the speculation and flipping community, is being first on that new book, right? Being first on that new book, getting the chance to put those new books up first. Everybody's trying to. It's kind of like a little bit of a rat race at some points, and
first
that's,
or last, actually, first or last.
Yeah,
is what I have learned in this concept, right? Like, for example, 8 Billion Genies, that Ant variant, right? The last people to hold those books got rewarded. So, it is sometimes a game of first, but sometimes if you truly believe in a book, it's like, all right, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It was just very interesting to me to see kind of how it all played out over social media also. What were your guys' thoughts of you guys that were there, aka Andy and Skeff? I know Jack was there also, but I want to get the retailer thought process. You guys being there, what were your thoughts when you guys started seeing all the stuff happen on social media and the talk about it?
I didn't really see anything about it till Saturday. I'm super busy at conventions.
And I can second that.
Yeah, I've seen Skeff at conventions. He's a madman. Like, yeah.
I don't have time for what's going on the interwebs. I don't know. I'll find out Saturday night. I don't know. We'll find out then. So then you hear like third-party people Saturday night. I'm like, oh, I should probably check social media now and stop doing like 5 shows a day. All right, good deal. All right, there we go.
Andy, what about you?
I can 100% attest to that. Is like you have limited connectivity when a lot of people start getting on the con floor. Yeah, some people have a little bit better than others, but as attendance numbers grow, connectivity dwindles, and checking social media and seeing what's going on social media wise just is not a priority when you're on the con floor. Skeff knows, Jack knows, the priority are your friends. The priorities are your friends, the artists, the people that are there. Social media definitely takes a backseat when you're in this scenario.
Which could be a good thing, to be honest.
Well, and everyone I would talk to on social media is there. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Mostly,
not wrong.
Yeah. It was just very interesting to see social media pick up on something like this and have it happen so fast. Jack, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think I certainly understand. This was such a unique situation. So and I understand where a lot of the frustration and tension come in. And I also obviously I was running a booth. We have the largest footprint in the building. We were incredibly short staffed to the point that not only am I managing content like I normally am, I was also running a crane machine or a vending machine, doing app scans and, really kind of we were getting our hands dirty because, we also had part of our team doing this Post Malone activation and things like that. So
that's another thing that people don't talk about. There was the whole Post Malone thing that happened, which was absolutely amazing and shitty on another level because, it caused this big, huge issue with so many people going to watch Posty do his Magic the Gathering stuff, which is unreal, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, overall, super successful activation. I think the big learning from it is that, obviously it impacted sellers during that timing. That's a product and engineering thing. We'll build the app up to the point that those kind of things won't happen. But you have to stress test that to even know really where you are. So you kind of have to go through those moments. But yeah, so I think when the news hit, there was multiple layers of this where I kind of heard about. I'd never heard of the book. I didn't know about it until after the line incident. All stuff happened, and people were showing it to me at the booth. Unfortunately, with the scope of my job, I'm probably the least in the know what's going on with exclusives at outside of our booth, because we're managing our exclusive releases, making sure we're getting comp packages together, making sure everybody knows where they're supposed to be and what time. So at the end of each day, I'll usually log on to my phone when I get better. Like these guys talked about better Wi-Fi reception at the hotel. I'll check out people's late night whatnot sales, and then I'll go see what's going on. So like Friday night, I started catching wind of some of I think there was like the CBSI post and things like that. So I saw some of that, and I immediately saw like a lot of where this is just the nature of social media. There's no person to blame for this or be angry with, but like people just started shooting in all directions.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were like falsely blamed for things that like weren't even in Chicago. Or
actually, let's talk about that, because I want to talk about that. That's one of the things that I really want to talk about. I think that was probably one of the biggest things for me to kind of throw an eye on, a spotlight on, and say, hey, man, maybe we need to rethink how this vitriol is being handed out, because you're 100% right. Skeleton Key wasn't there. Right. Skeleton Key gets a bunch of trash thrown their way, which they shouldn't have got for this issue at all. It should have been nothing being sent their way. Who were the people that were there? Was Comic Tom there?
Comic Tom and Gem Mint were there, but I'm like 90% positive I was situating stuff with Gem Mint during that whole time period that is in question. Those guys like really didn't have anything to do with this as well. But I think some of that comes with being like names in the community.
Yeah.
But there's also like people who they want Comic Tom to be the villain in this story.
Well, not just Comic Tom.
Right.
They wanted Skeleton Key to be the villain. They wanted Nerdy Girl to be the villain. They want Gem Mint to be the villain. They want Skeff to be the villain. They want anybody, Andy to be, whoever, Jack, they want to be the villain, right? So let's talk about who was the villain. Was there a villain in this situation?
Yeah,
right?
So I think there's a few different layers to this. First off, I think there's context that's important. I saw this trend a couple conventions ago. So I think everybody zeroes in on this Black Flag incident. This thing is the perfect storm. Popular book, egregious, like it really hurts the military, hurts create. There's a lot of arguments. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this that make this a storm. But we were at a convention a couple months ago, and I'm not going to call out the artist or the retailer by name just out of like respect. But there was an artist who was releasing a metal version of a book that wasn't metal by the publisher. This was their add-on, very similar to what we saw Black Flag do. There was no controversy around this. I saw the same behavior of like retailers buying it, sellers buying it, selling it. I commented to several people. I was like, I don't understand why this is popular. Isn't it bootleg? Like, even if the creator's doing it, is it not bootleg? But it was the first time that I had seen people do this a couple times, and now I was starting to see like consistency and success with it. And it was concerning to me as a collector, because I don't understand why people would chase an item that really like the publisher didn't put out. And then a lot of the argument comes from the fact that I think a lot of people don't understand like the way like metal and carbon fiber variants are actually made, and the fact that they are really just other covers affixed to other covers. And I think once you kind of like see how your food is made, it desensitizes some people to that whole process. So there was already this trend of creators and retailers on a small scale doing some of this. This was just like the perfect storm where it got put in everybody's face. So then everybody could kind of see it. And obviously like this retailer who I've never heard of, first off, I've never heard of this retailer before this weekend. This is the best advertising they ever could have got, and the worst advertising.
And the worst, you got it.
But all at once, and like I had never heard of the retailer before. That's not a shot at the retailer. Like I honestly, like they could be massive. I just really had never had any personal familiarity with them. And, I don't know all of the ins and outs with the relationship with Clayton Crane and things like that. But like this book is a very tough book to categorize in these books. And that's where like I know people have called for like policy changes with eBay and with whatnot. What makes this difficult is this isn't a bootleg. This is an authentic item that was embellished.
Yes, added to.
Yeah, it was added to, which means it doesn't truly fall under like a lot of the way policies are written surrounding inauthentic items. And if you just simply like ban this blankly, then you kind of open the door up for like, well, what about remarks? Like,
Yeah.
what if you take one artist's art and then a different artist remarks it? They're embellishing it. Well, you know, how does that kind of fall into, like, how do you have issues with that? There's all married covers with like vintage books, which is like a long standing thing. A lot of it comes down to ultimately really requiring make sure that like sellers are letting buyers know.
Yes,
Like,
transparency.
I have the concern everybody else does. Like, I hope when a buyer's buying this book, like, I don't understand why people are spending so much money.
Thanks, Skeff.
Why did CGC give out 10s
Love you
and
guys.
9s, bro?
So that's
I'm out.
the other thing. I can't speak for the people that were at that booth, and I don't understand the nuance behind the decision that CGC made, or whether or not like their statement is like really what happened, or how this whole like. But I just know that that when I talked to people who were buying them on Friday, when they showed it to me, and my gut, I don't want to say the person who showed it to me, but the person who showed it to me, my first reaction was, this looks bootleg. Because I had seen this at 2 conventions previous, I was like, this feels like somebody bootlegged this. And their immediate response was, but they've got CGC 9.8s and 9.9s and 10.0. So like this is where I feel like the retailer knew that by having those slabs available at the time of the drop,
Legitimate.
Just like having baseball card exchange wrap on that 86-87 Fleer box. Like,
yeah, we all, like, this is what I'm saying, is like we all have a level of like trust in that process.
yes.
So I can't speak for anybody who was in that line in the decision-making process of what went into that, but I imagine that again, that adds a level of legitimacy to something that clearly wasn't legitimate. And I think, like, if like I see in the chat, like, if somebody thinks like I'm trying to, I'm not justifying any decision that anybody made within this. I think that the way this kind of like hit the market and the way people were kind of attacking, and we heard the wrong people attributed to this. I've heard, again, directly Whatnot, like that we were like paying influencers. Again, we were so understaffed and just trying to manage our own booth that I'm the only one that in that category who has any idea of what's going on in the comic market. And I was far too busy to even have an understanding of what was going on at that moment.
Personally, I don't think Whatnot had anything. I don't think there should be any hate or vitriol sent Whatnot's way. I just don't. I don't think that there's any reason to send. I know people are saying, well, they bring up selling bootleg books again. Is this considered a bootleg book? It's something so new that we have to take this and build on it, right? Like, we haven't ever seen this happen before.
We may end up ruling that this is a bootleg book, but we have to, like, these policies. It's been a week, and these types of, and everybody wants us to rule on this one book. But the reality is, you have to make a decision that's going to impact several other books. So you really have to find a policy that's going to do justice to anyone in the situation with this book, as well as anyone in a situation with other books. It's also concerning, like, obviously they ran it back in Boston. So now this is like a thing. Will we see other retailers? So we don't know how big this is going to get at this point. And we really need to make sure that we're clear in our policy position. So any company of like the size of Whatnot, I question the move of some of these companies that made immediate like stances.
Yes.
Because that's where you put yourself in a tough position.
Jack, I think you hit it on the head. That's one of the things that I've been bringing up here. I've never met Tom. I've never talked with Comic Tom. I have no reason to dislike him, no reason to like him. My feelings on somebody is all based on my actions with them, right? Like, if I'm never talking to somebody, I have no reason to send any vitriol away. I know you, Jack. I've dealt with you in person. I've dealt with you many times with this. I know Andy. I know Skeff. I've met Skeff in person, right? I've met Nerdy Girl in person. I don't think that Nerdy Girl, Comic Tom, Gem Mint, anybody associated with Whatnot or being an influencer should have taken any hate for selling the book or buying the book. Okay. The only thing that I will say is, for Tom, Gem Mint specifically, is maybe their optics weren't as good on how they handle it afterwards. Like you said, deciding to come out and talk about it, and in the way that they talked about it, and then the biggest mistake is deleting the videos or not commenting on it. Immediately makes you look guilty. So maybe to say that they made a mistake and they need to learn from that is better than saying that they're doing things the hate they're getting. I don't think that they should be getting that hate at all.
Yeah, I think it was a difficult beginning of the week for a lot of people because there was so much anger in the community, justified anger. I get it. We as collectors, we're protective of this thing that we all have helped cultivate. So I totally understand people's frustrations, but the problem is when people are angry and they don't know who to be angry at, they just shoot it everywhere. So there was a lot of individuals taking hate that was like unjustified. Some people have thicker skin than others. Some people made probably poor decisions on how to handle that. Some people, like a Skeff, this is probably the first time he's ever in his life gone through something like this. If you know me, you know I've had a couple of instances where members of the community may have been angry at me. I've had to deal with that and navigate that.
May have. You still owe me $100 from fantasy last year. What are you talking about?
There you go. So then you got you got a guy like Skeff who, what you said, Brian, about him, like, couldn't be more true. Like, nicest guy you'll ever meet. Doesn't mean everybody who's the nicest guy always like makes the best decision in every moment.
Yeah, we're human.
Yeah, and I think that gets lost in some of this. And I also think the word influencer is an interesting word because there's such a negative hate for it, but it's mislabeled to people.
That's why I try to say content creator.
Yeah, because like I've watched so many people label people influencers who, like, the amount of people that have any sort of like influencer contract with whatnot are this big. And it's not the names that I keep seeing people like throw out. So I think there also becomes this like crab in the bucket mentality that we get in the community where it's like we want to shoot at somebody who maybe it has some notoriety going, and that portion of it gets sad. So like I've spent a lot of time this week with people who aren't a part of the comic community who have been evaluating this.
Jack, can I ask you a question? I gotta touch on that influencer thing. I'm hearing that more and more, and like, I mean, we've been hearing it for 5 years now or whatever. And I feel like the comic community, or at least our spec community in the sense, like we kind of just don't need that label. So what would be an influencer for people that are like new to the show? Somebody, some beautiful woman, some beautiful person that shows her body off, or somebody that recommends a spec book, or somebody who says, hey, rip these, don't rip these. What is an influencer? Anybody
who can generate attention on a given topic. So sometimes an influencer can really range honestly in the comic content community. If I'm just being like blatantly honest, like we really don't have influencers. None of us have ever had the type of following to have the kind of impact that we see in other categories. Unfortunately, I think like there's probably some ways that we do that to ourselves because we love these kind of shows where we like go deep. But if you're a newer comic fan, this is probably way over your head. So like sports cards, they're able to really kind of click that influencer kind of area by doing like vlog coverage and things of that nature, which is a little more accessible to a wider audience. But I think that, so we still look for who to place that label on, right? Because we still feel like, well, there has to be these people in our space. So we put these labels on anybody who kind of like, to Brian's point, is a content creator and has notoriety. And then it's interesting how the people that we like who do that, we don't call an influencer. No, it's like, no, you're a content creator. You're not.
Honestly, I think we need to ask Black Flag because he said he was the original influencer. Because he knows.
No.
Well,
because
again, I
think those are his own words. Those are his own words. Well, he was the OG.
Book it.
He was the first.
Hood, I think if anybody in this, I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I think if anybody made the biggest mistakes, is definitely Black Flag on how they handled this. I think the stuff in Boston, the way that they kind of poked the bear, and I'm sure they were probably looking at it like, hey, any publicity is good publicity, right? But the problem is that like no other situation before this, and Jack said, you know, it was a perfect storm, and that's exactly right. Where Whatnot is a new company that has just totally jumped on the scene and made a big change in how we buy and sell items, right? So that's one thing that's happened. Comic books and collectibles have been hotter than they've ever been, and they're on a little bit of a decline, right? So some people aren't. A lot of retailers lately have been talking about how, you know, their web pages and maybe some of their sales have slowed down. And you know, there's a reason to go out there and do that. That's the perfect storm also. And the book is one of the biggest books in the last 50 years, right? So it was 100% a perfect storm. But man, did he come out and poke the bear to really top it off.
Yeah, that was bullshit. You know, I mean, it's a slap in the face. You know, it's like he's saying, come get me, you know? And like that guy, that, and I don't know him. Okay. I'm just going off of what I see.
Optics. Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't strike me as a comic book guy. He strikes me as a guy that sells used cars.
Well,
And
bro, a large influx into the collectible world is just that. New people who maybe weren't in it 2 or 3 years ago, you know, and
they have the gift of gab. They have the gift of
Brian,
gab.
you also mentioned like when you talk to somebody and you get to know them, you have a better assessment, and it's like similar to like the way people perceive a Comic Tom. Probably they wouldn't feel that way if they met him.
100%. And that's what I've heard from everybody, by the way.
Yeah. And that's a pretty.
Yeah, he's totally different when you meet him in person than what you see in his content. So.
Having said that, I met the Black Flag guy on Sunday night very briefly.
Sorry to hear that.
So I got to tell the story for transparency, as Brian said. I'm sitting in the lobby and I'm like, you know, exhausted. Sunday night. It's after the con. You just ran through everything. We're waiting to go out to dinner. I'm waiting on a couple people to hit the lobby. And this guy walks up and he's like, man, what a weekend. And I was like, yeah. And I shook his hand. And then he was like, yeah, he could tell I didn't recognize him. And he was like, oh, Black Flag. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh shit. Like I can't get my picture taken near this guy. Like things are going crazy at this moment. The world is blowing up. I'm like, I can't be anywhere near this guy. But right there, that limited interaction that I had, the pride that he had with how much this was like us causing a stir. Number one, it let me know, yeah, he's definitely going to do this again. But number two, that he is the personality who like enjoys poking the bear.
Yeah.
While like there were some individuals, like Skeff, this may have affected and had to kind of like bear this, and this probably was difficult to go through, and they'll learn from it. This is a guy I don't expect to learn from it.
Well, if he did, he wouldn't have handled Boston the way he did if he learned from it.
Like if you're gonna talk shit, you better be prepared to like take shit. Like, I mean, that's just like it can't be a one-way thing, man. Like you can't just like, you know, poke at comic collectors. And you know, the biggest thing, like Comic Tom, I don't know him, but he's got all these followers, right? And more power to him. You know, he's doing his thing. But damn, like as much of and I'll use the word influencer, he could have easily come out and said, hey, look, I'm going to give you my perspective. This is what happened from what I know. I'm going to be fully transparent. And he wouldn't have had, but no, they got to make a video with him with this, the thumbnail with that sinister look about bootleg books, or like, man, you're doing it on purpose.
Well, yeah, right? And like there's a comment in the chat too, like, why wouldn't I tell Gem Mint that he shouldn't have posted that? So like these guys are their own individuals. Like we may work with them in a capacity of like a business relationship from whatnot in these individuals, but like they run their own businesses. They're their own brands. I don't have any creative stake, and what I would do or not do may not be the way they choose to handle it. And they certainly don't ask my opinion when they're making these decisions. And again, I wouldn't even want to have that.
Yeah, rightfully so. Yeah,
where I have to like, because you Brian, you would as a YouTuber, like you wouldn't want some company telling you how to respond in these situations. I think, again, these things are learnings I think
big time.
These guys have been through a lot of situations where I've watched them get kind of blamed for things that they really didn't go through. And I think after a while that frustrates you. And sometimes you may want to needle back. And this was just the one time where it was like, man, the community was so fed. I've never seen our community like that. But that's a comment that I was making earlier, was there were parts of this that was embarrassing when non-comic people looked at it and was like, why do you guys hate each other so much? And like me trying to explain, like for somebody who's as popular as Tom or Gemmin is, why do some people hate them so much? Or why do some people automatically think a person who wasn't there is there?
Exactly.
Or, you know, how are there like people saying they saw this person? They weren't even in the state. So it's just, those conversations were difficult. I think we had to kind of go through this to kind of like level set and have some of these difficult conversations about like people's roles in the community and how people view them. But also I think some of this is just FOMO. Like there were a lot of people that weren't there who then kind of like wanted to take part in it. And also the last thing I'll say, and this is not a knock on anybody, there was a lot of people like you, Brian, who you really have made an attempt to like look at this from an honest angle, take all sides, really figure out what's going on here so we can actually kind of like come to some understanding about what even happened. There were, just like you see with the traditional news, there were a lot of opportunistic people who saw an opportunity to have their best YouTube video with their hottest hot take. And we would just see one person kind of facilitate a lie and then the next person run with that as part of their story. And there was a lot of that went on over the course of the week. So I've really taken stock this week on the content creators as like a former content creator who have really approached this from a stance of like, hey, we're trying to learn because this is such a unique situation.
Yeah, that's a really, really big problem, is the bulk of the videos and the bulk of the content that's hitting YouTube in the last 6 days is entirely from people that weren't there.
Yeah,
and they're carrying a false narrative that was frustrating to begin with, and it gets even more frustrating. Here we are, 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, that false narrative is still being spun. And when you tell people that's not the case, I was there in line, nobody wants to talk.
Yeah, that's why it's important that I really wanted to do my best to get people that were there, right? And that's why I said, hey, if you were there, you know, let me know. I want to know what happened, right? And for the most part, when you talk to the people who were there, it's so much less than it ever was.
It's bad. It's bad. It's toxic. I mean, literally, I woke up to a message the next morning telling me that I needed to personally go to the Whatnot booth, open the door behind the main stage, and take a picture of all of the copies of this UF4 acetate that's back there. I'm like, bro, there's nothing back there but electrical equipment. You can't be serious. You can't seriously think that Whatnot has cases that, like, I'm like getting messages like I need to be accountable of what I purchased and what I did in line. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works.
I want to bring up Clayton Crane in a second because I see a lot of people talking about it in the chat. But real quick, I want to talk about something that a lot of people might not understand how it works. And that is at cons, how Whatnot sets up the Whatnot comps that they give for people that are selling stuff on Whatnot. Can you explain how that works, Jack, and how what goes on at a Whatnot setup at a con?
Yeah, and this has been our primary kind of like playbook for the last year and a half as we've like ventured into the con scene. We're looking for a more like official, technical,
you're learning
in-app driven kind of process because this can be a lot. But our goal is to be able to create fun exclusives that'll get brand recognition and will allow our sellers to have something that will attract extra buyers to their streams. We've seen that to be pretty consistently successful. So we put these comp packages together. They can range at a convention anywhere from a few hundred to a few thousand, depending on the releases and the popularity. We work hard to really try to create stuff that we think is special. We work hard to like save stuff for conventions like that. We may hold a book for 2 months for a convention. And then really, like, I would love for as many people to be able to sell at our booth as possible. It's difficult. You've got to be able to reach out and get in touch with us. You can go through seller support. You can go through any channel. If you know myself or Adam directly, Sarah Ing, Chancellor Poole, any of us can get you on the schedule. And like I said, if nothing else, reach out to seller support. Sellers get on the schedule that way.
They're good about that, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we want to try to make sure that like people get opportunity, but at the same point, like, we do also want to make sure that we're always properly demonstrating the app, because that's the other purpose. Like, as prospective buyers or future sellers come by, we want them to see like the very best example of what Whatnot has to offer. So yeah, I mean, we've invested thousands of dollars in books that we've given to sellers. I don't think people realize too, like, Whatnot, we've sold very little items directly from our Whatnot account. We've given away
hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands worth of variants over the last year.
And not only that, on top of that, Whatnot has the amount of money that Whatnot has put into all that stuff is like crazy, right? And it all goes towards, like, advertising, and it helps Whatnot also. But man, buying an 86-87 Fleer basketball box is crazy. I mean, that's $150,000 box. You know what I mean? So another thing is that also, some retailers are giving comps. They're going, hey, I want to throw some of my comps in here to give away, right? So you've got other retailers coming up, and like the Hive Boys will drop some comps in to give away to people at the Whatnot sales. Bird City or Big Clutch, or you know what I mean? Like they also see the value in this, right? The value.
Yeah, I think it helps. It helps you spread, and this is where people start to get labeled the influencer, but by spreading the awareness. When you're creating a project, it's all about awareness. And if you're doing a lot of the ways that variants were released previously is like, okay, it needs to only come from me in this one place, and I'm going to advertise it on my social. But then how do the people discover it who don't know you? So how do you grow? So being able to like find these other voices, and it's like, if Comic Man Andy's selling your book, man, that guy's one of the most excitable sellers you're gonna see. He's gonna bring the fun and joy to that, and then that's a good representation of your product.
How did that book get a 10?
So the Acetate book, I have utterly no idea. Like, that was, again, because this is where like some of the, I think it's honestly, I take it as a testament to the success of our convention variants that people attributed that book to us and thought that it was a Whatnot book, but it really had nothing to do with us. So I have no idea how that book. I don't even know
how did 4 books get a 9.9?
Yeah, well, again, this goes to what I was talking about the other night on the Hot 10.
And this is I like when I ask that question, I'm not asking it like Bolo knows the answer.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Rhetorical.
I want you guys to give me an honest opinion, not a guess, like an opinion. Can a grade be bought? That's what I'm asking, because that's what it looks like.
It's tough because there's so much subjectivity that goes into the grading process. So like, there's often been, and this is where like the idea of line cutting isn't new. There's a culture of that's existed at conventions, unfortunately, for a long time. And the same has always been talked about. I don't know if it's what some would say conspiracy theory. Some would say like, oh, there's evidence of it. It's difficult, but like, there's always been people who have believed like, if you're a dealer and you get thousands of books slabbed, that a company's going to be more friendly to you than they would be the Joe Blow who sends 2 books in.
Maybe get your books out quicker. Maybe you sign a specific contract that says you're gonna send in this many books a month, and if doing that, you never know behind the scenes. But that's exactly why we need somebody from. Listen, I love Matt Nelson. I love being able to every once in a while get Matt Nelson and come on a show and this and that. But listen, the guy's got bigger fish to fry 90% of the time than coming on a YouTube show or an IG show. It would be nice if CGC did have somebody, aka like Jack, to come on a show every once in a while and say, yeah, this is how we feel. This is how it worked. This is what happened. Again, the transparency is so damn important. And not only with CGC, but we also need that with Marvel. with DC, with the publishers out there. Like, you know what I mean? When these situation happens, it's so much more important for them to come out and we see them. We feel like we're talking to them in these roundtable discussion type things. You get more on how their body language is, and you get a more of a feeling out of what's going on rather than a forum post, right? Or that type of thing. So
yeah, and I think to the people who want like Marvel to answer this faster, I would say like behind the scenes, most likely Marvel's doing that. But people have to remember, we've done some business with Marvel. They're a Disney company,
yeah.
So they're always going to have to, like, when you're again talking about legal and policy decisions, those are going to like take a minute. So I'm very curious to what Marvel is going to do in this scenario. I think they have to take action.
Oh, they have to.
And I think it impacts way more than just Marvel, because as I said, I've seen this behavior happening at the convention already with other publishers that just wasn't getting the attention because it wasn't Ultimate Fallout 4. There wasn't influencers attached. There wasn't a sellout. The seller didn't start at an egregious price. He didn't raise the price midway through. There weren't already slabbed copies. These are all things that kind of contributed to this being the perfect storm.
Jack, why don't publishers and retailers, or printers for that matter, why don't they number their books like card companies do?
It is a frustrating thing to kind of go through that process, because I think having now stepped into the world of printing,
and
this
publishing,
is like publishing is like a top of mind thing for me. Typical offset printers, which is the type of printer that's doing like large quantities where you're going to see most of your comic book publishing come from, will not do it. Like on whole, they just won't do it. They view it as really like clogs up the time that they're kind of like going through and dealing with the damages. They have to produce a lot of extras to deal with potential damages, because obviously each book is individually numbered. Again, if that doesn't satisfy somebody as an answer, that's their answer. That's not my answer. That's what they're coming with. Digital printers will do it, which is why you'll see like Do You Poo books have it.
Shout out Marat Michaels.
Yeah, those books will have it. Having said that, those books are a lot more expensive, like 4 to 5x more expensive from a printing perspective. Great if you're creating a variant for a convention. If you're doing like a 3,000 print run book, probably difficult. Like
I don't think it's necessary for a 3,000 print run book. I think 1,000 and under. Yeah.
And what also people like, publishers all make those decisions. And so like at Whatnot Publishing, I can only speak to what we're doing to try to have that sort of a customization. We're printing from 2 different places. So we're printing offset via our traditional printer, same printer that does image in DC. So we'll be able to do those kinds of things. And then when we want to do fun stuff like foil, and we want to make a variant in a week, we want to number the book, we can do that via offset printer. And if you got to pay extra for a limited run variant that you know is going to bring secondary market money, it's not that big of a deal. But unfortunately, due to like a lot of the publishers in the space are short-staffed. They make a lot of decisions based on logistics and bandwidth. So a lot of publishers in comics, they just want to go through one printer, or they may have to go through multiple because of the fight over paper. And they don't have that short run option, which is why a lot of publishers too, like if you want to do an exclusive, if you've ever had that experience, like you can't just hit them up and like make a book in 3 weeks. It has to be within their printing schedule. It has to go to the regular printer who's going to print all of the issues. So it's not really set up for that. Again, shout out to Marat Michaels, Javon Jordan, some of these like indie creators who have adopted numbering their books like that. I think that's an awesome option, and I would love to see more people do it. And as a publisher, I think it's something we're going to look at. I know we've discussed it. The concern is damages. We'll try to figure out a way to navigate that, because I know that people want it. And I also, Maclay, you and I are both big sports card fans. Like that has been crucial to sports cards. I think it gives a cool element that I would love to add, but it's difficult at a mass level.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a good answer. Like we don't expect it to be like a thing where it's gonna take away from the bottom line that much, because it can, right? If it's gonna cost that much more to print on those hat 3,000 copies, that's crazy. But at 750 copies, at 250 copies, at 500 copies, that probably is a good idea. Definitely for anything 250 below, I think that it's a must. I think that's I mean, it's gonna help out so much. So it'll be interesting to see where it happens. Here's another question. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick, Brian, before you go, on your point, why don't they just write it down like Bowman does with the clubhouse case hits? What are they called? Clubhouse materials. And you get the relic and sometimes relic auto.
And it's got a hologram on the back with a.
No, and it has a number. Like, remember that Young I got? It was numbered to 47, and it was written in a little
on marker.
Yeah. I mean, just do that. That would be cool, as long as everybody's kept accountable for their numbers. Sure, there's going to be damages and returns, but hey, that's
you could do that. Then you'd run into the question of like, how are comic book fans going to feel about
writing on your comic?
Writing on it, even if it came
on a COA. On a COA.
Well, COAs are another tricky one because I can duplicate a COA.
Yeah, I don't like COAs.
Yeah, a lot of people think that this, like, COAs have gone in cycles where, like, in the 90s they fell out of favor because people were Xerox copying them to death, and then they got back in popularity when exclusive variants kind of came around and people wanted like a level of kind of like proof of what the print run is, but the truth is they don't really provide
anything. To do it the right way. All they would have to do is the print house would just basically add an additional wrap at the centerfold that would have the COA attached at the centerfold like that.
That's interesting.
And that's it. And if that thing is ripped or tampered in any way, all the third-party authentic grading companies right away, that's either NG or.
That looks. I don't have enough knowledge of printing to be able to tell you you're wrong. That's an idea that I will. I'm gonna.
I don't either. I got that from pressing books.
Yeah,
I just thought about that from pressing.
We'll throw that to the printer and find out. I think a lot of the things people think are easy usually aren't. Unfortunately,
I'm sure. I'm not trying to nitpick.
But if nobody pushes the issue,
right,
and to challenge,
well, that's why this.
Right.
That's exactly why this is so important.
Right. And to challenge and to get, we're all comic book fans. What, brainstorm it and fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because if we go, it can't be done. No, it's too hard, then, honestly, that's unacceptable, because we've got to figure this out so that we don't go through this shit again, Like, when people buy a book, they want an authenticated book, and they want to know if they're buying a limited edition book. That's all. Yeah. That's all I would ask for.
The difficulty.
And I just hate it when something can't be done. I just hate that shit.
Oh, I don't disagree, and I think that's largely what Whatnot has tried to do is we've tried to really go outside the box wherever we can. So from a publishing standpoint, I totally agree with you. I think for a traditional publisher, a lot of them don't pay attention to the secondary market. So a lot of the things that we all notice and we're like, hey, why don't they see this? They don't see it because they're really editorially focused on the direct market and what's the readership and what type of retention do we have from issue to issue. And those are the things that tend to get their immediate attention. So sometimes they're just unaware of these trends and the things that we're really looking for as a collector community.
Watching what's going on in the NFT world and seeing and hearing some of the ideas where they're trying to marry NFTs to comics or cards, there's some really good ideas out there in that NFT world when it comes to, setting a number. I saw Shane just now mentioned, QR codes being in there and that type of stuff. A lot of these guys who are trying to marry the NFT with a physical copy of some type are already on the idea of, marrying that number, that specific number. So with the NFT thing to get bigger and bigger, I think it's going to force a lot of these things to happen in the comics world just by getting with the program type thing.
If NFTs become more of like an overall widely used and accepted thing with the mass public, which I totally think will head in that direction, that'll ease a lot of this, because the way those get redeemed, the pace at which they get redeemed, would be advantageous to the publisher then to be able to take those extra steps, like getting the books numbered and things like that.
Yes.
I think they're starting to slowly like integrate QR codes into comics, right? Like with We Live, where you scan that QR code to listen to the music as you're reading the book.
Same thing with Ninja Funk. You'll get that with Ninja Funk, where there'll be QR codes embedded within the art to get the soundtrack during the course of reading the book.
Genius. It's so smart to do, to create that extra added little thing. Utility, or the utilities, being able to get certain utilities for a lifetime when you have that item, all that type of stuff is very interesting to see where it goes.
Hey Joe Truck or Turek, the Panini prints comics in Italy already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
call,
And they do a great job.
Yeah,
They do
and they're better than
job.
the United States.
Yeah.
I will say there is a world where some of the larger companies start offsetting some of their properties to third-party companies in comics publishing. You could see a Panini published like that. That in the future wouldn't surprise me.
Yep. All right, Andy, let me ask you something, because something kind of interesting that came out on your side from this whole thing is the veteran angle, right? And I don't see a lot of people talking about it, and I want to hear from more veterans. And but you kind of have done something very interesting, the way that you've kind of partnered up with charities and stuff, and a lot of the things that you do on your Whatnot sales are to help veteran charities. That was a big thing for you going into this book, you being able to maybe help out that angle and get some of these books graded to sell on your Whatnot for all charities going to a veteran thing. And it's really the vitriol and all this stuff has kind of turned a lot of that on its head. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, my main thought is still the mission for the year of 2022 is supporting Mission 22 and veterans health awareness.
Nice.
And I discovered this book in line, right? Like, we were walking around trying to find out what we thought would be a good place to put our eggs, a good basket to put our eggs, so to speak. And I didn't see the cover of this book. I didn't know it was releasing until we were already in the line for Black Flag. We're just kind of like, hey, there's people, we see some stuff. What's going on here, guys? And you start talking. And I wish I would have scrutinized this picture a lot more, because somebody from their phone just kind of showed me, and I'm like, this is a tribute to fallen heroes. I can see that the Miles is holding a folded flag. I can see that there's some embellishment on this cover, and I'm like, I don't know the details, but I do know that I need to provide an opportunity here, or work on an opportunity. And thanks to Jack and Whatnot, if I decide to do something that's charity related, all I got to do is pre-plan it with them, and we can figure things out. It doesn't take a lot of work. It's pretty easy and pretty simple. So in my head, bells start going off. Here's an opportunity to have another conversation about a charity, or even like, we're all spinning our heads looking for what the big book of the convention is going to be. So what am I thinking? Here's an opportunity for giveaways. Like, no joke. Like, potential giveaways, not just for a charity event, but for actual giveaways. And I'm still kind of upset with myself for not scrutinizing this book a little bit more. And I'm even more upset in the way Black Flag handled the release of this book, because when you go to pay and check out, I get a lot of people asking me, well, why didn't you stop and look at the cover when you were paying for it? Because they put all the books together with the covers facing, because they're offsetting the spines, because the acetates bump out. So when they packed them all in the boxes and you pull X number of books out and set them on the counter, the covers are facing each other. So when you say, give me X, they set a stack right there. You're handing money over, or your card over. You're not even looking at the book yet at this point. And everybody in that line is nothing but courteous, right? Like, we're all like, I need to go and get out and make room for the next person. We need to help be efficient in this process, because there's a lot of people behind us that have time invested into this. So you grab and you kind of go, and then you're doing the fold the cover. You're trying to put them away and trying to tuck them away. And it wasn't until like Jack and like Skeff had said, like later on, like the next night or the next day, that people started talking about this. And now, as a veteran myself, I'm pretty upset that I didn't scrutinize this cover a lot harder. I got FOMO. This is
hold on here, you guys. I want to key in on that. Like this is what I'm talking about. This is the type of stuff that we need to do. He didn't say he's mad at Black Flag yet. He didn't say he's mad at any of the influencers. He said, I need to be better. I need to be better. That's important. That is fucking important. And it's the same reason that we're talking about it. Go on, Andy.
It's just kind of one of those things where yes, FOMO is related. FOMO, it's a very multifaceted FOMO thing that it is. FOMO, fear of missing out, is because at this point I'm kind of having delusions of grandeur of like, wait a sec, how many covers could we put together and get graded and do auction these off for Mission 22? And it's not about like hoarding. It's about like, how many times can I carry this message forward? 4, 3, 5. I don't know. My wife and I lined up in line that morning thinking we were going to do the usual 1-2. It's going to be 2 copies per person. That's kind of like the standard C2E2 rep, right? 2 per person, not a big deal. $30 to $50 is generally what an exclusive at C2E2 goes for in our past experience. So this entire time that I'm investing in that line, my wife is there with me, and we're making a plan for 4 copies, right? And then all of a sudden you hear things start up and like there's no limit. Instantaneous fog of war. And I'm like, well, how many times can I carry this message forward? How many times can we do something for veterans? Or how many people are not here that are not going to have an opportunity at this book? And I got lucky. That my wife and I were standing where we were in line. So to kind of come back to from the veteran side of things, like I am upset with myself for not scrutinizing this book a lot harder, because now I don't know that I can confidently take this to a charity auction for veterans, by veterans, and have it be healthy. And that's where I'm upset. That's
shitty. That's really shitty. And I see shout out to Doc Joe. Doc Joe says, I'm a vet. Cover was crap, but wasn't offensive to me all. I get that too. Like I think maybe, you know, some people look at it that a lot of people look at it that way. But the fact that you have to second guess yourself about giving that book away now because it might not be a healthy optic. It might not be a healthy situation. Another thing I heard a lot of people talking about the whole Boston thing. Like, what's going to happen at Boston? Is this something that could get violent? It sounds really silly, but you know, let's be honest. A lot of people were mad on a super high level. You get people who are mad talking with other people who want to poke the bear, and you get a bad situation. You know what I mean? So like,
can I add? I know there's a lot of people in the chat here that say it's not offensive, and I want to share something about this from veterans, from like Chip Getler and myself, White Shadow on YouTube, who brought up some of the videos on this. The flag is not folded correctly for somebody that's being given that flag in tribute for them losing their lives. The flag is not folded. You should never see white. You should never see red. You should only see blue. That is very offensive to anybody out there that's received that flag or have been a part of that. And that's where Chip's heart is broken. That's where my heart's broken. And I know a lot of people out there say that they're not offended, and that's great. I'm happy that those people don't feel the way that I do about that. And they'll have a healthy relationship with that book than I will. But the flag needs to be folded correctly and displayed correctly.
Yeah. Yep. I that was the really interesting thing to me is that whole angle. It felt like again, when you're not. Here's the other thing. Let's be honest. I'm going to bring in another guest tonight. What's up, Mr. Longshore? How you doing, brother?
What's up, boys? Thanks for having me on. Super
brother. Another angle that I think is very important to talk about, and you know, sometimes it's rough talking about these things, and that is the fact that this was a retailer exclusive variant. There's been a lot of talk over the last year or so, especially behind the scenes, that some feels like maybe there's too many of these things out there. Maybe there's it's starting to cause an issue within the community rather than making it better, right? Print runs. Not only that, like you take a lot of these retailers who maybe are just getting in the game and they're like, I'm going to become a comic book retailer. I've always wanted to own a comic shop. They get involved in the retailer exclusive game, and they might not have the best art, and they're stuck with 3,000 copies of a book they can't sell. I mean, it's the same reason that this guy decided to go put an acetate cover on something, which, by the way, in all honesty, it's a really good idea. It's a fucking great idea. If he would have handled it better, it would have been knock it out the park home run. But let's talk about that. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on the retailer exclusive game right now? Richie, you're on mute.
Right at the end, I want to add that. So right now, what you said, and then what Andy alluded to earlier about the flag, right now we have an opportunity to do this over again. Right now. If they could recall the books. I mean, there is so much drama right now and separation, anxiety. The community's going left, right, up, down, all over. I mean, I have friends I've been friends with the last 6-7 years in comics, and it's like we're yelling at each other at the top of our lungs over, and I don't even own the book. I don't even give a shit, But at the same time, my dad's a veteran, and when I told him what Andy told me, he's like, yeah, that can't be. So now you have an opportunity to fix it, do it right.
Well,
an option?
I don't know. To be honest, like, you're not going to be able to pull these books back. That's not going to happen.
So
because
no recall.
No recall. You're not. It's just going to put more eyes on this book, which really isn't a good thing. We know how collectibles work and rarity and that type of thought. I think that, to me, the main points to look at to make this better are to have more conversations about what we're talking about right now, which we're going to get into in a second, and that's the how exclusives are thought of and looked at in our community or in the collecting comic world, but more importantly, the transparency. Like, we need to talk about transparency and how important it is, and two, that we learn from this somehow, i.e., take more time. If you're going to get involved in the retailer exclusive game, put more time in the covers you're putting out or the books you're putting out. Put more effort in it. This isn't just a quick buck.
Yeah. Let me comment on that for a second, Brian, if you don't mind, because I think it's a great point. And listen, if you're going to put out shitty books, you're going to be stuck with them, right? I mean, it's like it's no different than any other part of the comic book game. A lot of bad comics come out every single week, right? A lot of really bad retailer exclusives come out every single week. And if you're going to put a bad product, you're going to go out of business, right? But that said, I think it's an important part of the hobby. I think some really, really cool stuff comes out every single week. And it depends on how you want to approach it. I think there's two schools of thought if you're a retailer here. And I think you can see this playing out with a lot of the retailers. Either you want to produce something that's going to create something that's going to be good for the community. So it's something that's limited, rare, cool. Or you're going to produce something, right, where you want to try to make a shit ton of money for yourself. And you can go either direction. I don't really care. But if it's all about just trying to make money for yourself and not giving back to the hobby, to creating books that people are going to want to have and hold, then I think that's going to fail longer term. But whatever, to each their own. People can do whatever they want to in this space, but I think it's an important part of it. It's not going anywhere. But far too many people are just mailing it in, right? They're just going to put them out week after week, and there's nothing unique, nothing special, and eventually, I think you're just going to honestly burn yourself to the ground doing that.
Well, I think where Mr. Longshort, as always, is very astute when it comes to the market with this is like, this isn't something that we can just generalize and say like variants are good or bad. It really comes to the individual and how they approach it. If you're being intentional about your releases, there are some things about the exclusive variant market that I think the average consumer may not understand. Like, if you go look at how many artists that are generally widely loved today got their start and their foothold into the industry through exclusive variants, the amount of artists you would never have heard of who you love today, who are additive to the community, there's unfortunately like a natural good old boy system that happens within any industry where it becomes tough to get past those gatekeepers. And what exclusive variants have done by giving the power of like editorial to the retailer versus the traditional editorial staff, while yes, that has made some shit covers because not everybody's good at that. That has also allowed for retailers to find some of the best talent in comics today. Also, I don't think a lot of people realize how many artists, specifically artists, work day jobs. Yeah. And like they're not in a position. It's not like these are jobs where they're getting rich. They're oftentimes on the grind trying to get themselves to the point of doing this full time. If you were to eliminate exclusive variants, you would eliminate such a large percentage of the overall work that artists would have in the marketplace. Also, we talk about like print runs, but like if you were to take away those print runs, how healthy of a comic market do we then have if we take away, say, 30% of an issue number one of a typical like big two or Image boom type release? Those are difficult questions that I think when a collector who's really looking at it from a secondary market perspective is viewing these things, they're not really thinking about the reverberations throughout the marketplace and how if 9 out of 10 things about exclusive variants have honestly been positive and additive to the market as a whole, but they're absolutely bad actors. They're absolutely stores who then become variant farms and they're just putting books out and they're not really they're like the care in the process is gone. And that's something I have to, as somebody puts out a lot of exclusive, I have to constantly check that in myself and my staff. When we're working on projects, like that is a constant flag that I will bring up. Like, are we just checking boxes? Like we got this artist and this book and this publisher, or are we really trying to create something that we feel like special? Why I'm proud of the Battle Damage series, because while some may feel like it's played out or we've overdone it, like it was something that we did intentionally. We built a strategy with it. We've executed it. So there's been some intentionality there with it versus like just, I'm going to homage this because I think the book is hot.
Yeah.
So can I say something, Brian? Because it just came to my mind. The mistakes done on this book almost seem like it was intentional.
Yeah, that's the
so
the
if
problem
the
I've heard
acetate,
a lot of people say.
If the acetate doesn't hit, then we'll get them with the flag. And if the flag doesn't hit, we'll have in God interest. Interest. So it was almost like they went out of their way to make sure that this was going to be a hit. We'll have a fucking error on it. We'll do some shit with a flag. We'll put acetate on it. You know, we'll put blood in it like the Kiss comic. I mean, it was almost done like we've got to make sure at all possibilities that there's got to be something to create a fervor for this book to move. And that's what pisses me off.
And the flag was the immediate tip off when I got shown the book that made me question whether it's authenticity. Because I know from previous dealings with creating variants that Marvel actually doesn't like the flag to be represented on the covers because they don't have a process to vet the like genuineness of the person creating that variant and their intention. And there were some books previously that featured the flag prominently on characters that wouldn't necessarily make sense for.
Right, with a Carnage.
Yep.
Carnage USA, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think Marvel caught a lot of backlash.
And they did
for a lot of those covers. So they had moved to a policy of not allowing retailers to utilize the flag for those types of purposes. So when I saw that, I was like, how is a store that I've never heard of getting a cover treatment that like a big company like Whatnot doesn't get, and utilizing a flag, which I know countless retailers have been rejected trying to do covers involving the flag, even ones with well-intentioned surrounding either military charities or like holidays like the 4th, and they weren't allowed to do it. So that was immediately what I looked at this cover. I was like, this
is the other question. And once Clayton Crane comes out and makes a statement on what he was part of it, I hope he does. I feel bad because I feel like we don't know why he canceled 2 shows, but listen, if you're an artist like Clayton Crane and you cancel 2, you're not going to show up at 2 cons. It's a lot of money that you're not going to make. So I don't want people to like instantly start throwing vitriol his way, because he may have had a death in the family. He may have had something like, happen. But when we need to hear from Clayton Crane also, like, what was his, did he draw that acetate stuff?
See, this is where I think Red's onto something, because Clayton's done enough flags and has enough experience and done enough research that he would not have put his name on this, looking at how egregious these errors are.
Well, and then his signature's on the back of the cover, isn't it, as well?
Well, I mean,
like
you can put anybody's signature on anything.
No, but that's the point. Is so either the retailer worked with him to create that that cover, or they're bootlegging his signature as well as the Marvel stuff. So like either Black Flag is doing something against him, or he was in on it, which is I think where a lot of people want to know on what side of the line kind of he
agreed.
Yeah, but it said that he was in on it. I mean, he might have not known like what they negotiated. They might have said, hey, we're gonna put this on the books that we created, and like, I mean, I'm sure 100%. He doesn't want to get pulled into this thing one way or the other because it's such a shit show. But like, to say that he was in on it, I don't know, man. That seems a bit of a stretch. I mean,
seems like a reach, but you can't exclude it though. But
well, and the other previous embellishment book that had been released, they were done by the artists. So there is history of the artists actually. And again, this is where I think the artists previously have looked at this like, is this really bootleg if I'm doing it with my own works and I'm the one releasing it, which is where this like crazy gray area comes in with this book. And like, how do you classify this book? We all know we hate it, right? We all know that. But where do you classify it? And does it fall as something that's inauthentic? Is it embellished? Is it a married cover? Is this its whole new category? Will other creators?
They've had that book for over a year sitting in their warehouse. I'm sure they had a year to plan on how to put together.
I mean, it just didn't sell, right? I mean, it just
right.
Well, like, leave Miles alone, bro. Like that's my character, dude. Quit fucking. Like, dude, show me if you have all great ideas as a retailer, pick a different character, man. Like, quit fucking with the UF4.
Why that happened? Because if you had done it with a less popular character, it would have been not paid attention to the way some of the previous releases hadn't been.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Acetate, regular, I just didn't think that book was that cool. I mean, honestly, like whatever, and nothing against Clayton Crane. I think he's a wonderful artist. I just when that book came out, I just didn't think it was that cool personally. For me,
I'll be honest, man. I thought it was such a great idea. Like right when I heard about it, I was like what a great idea to take for the amount of money it costs to throw that extra acetate cover on there to make a book start selling that hasn't been selling for months and only throwing that on there. It's really a good idea business wise. I mean, like,
yeah, I want to agree with that. I don't actually hate the idea at all.
Yeah,
like, I mean, the actual like concept of like, we're going to throw that fine. Like for me, the book didn't speak to me.
And I agree on that too. Yeah.
I don't have any, like, I think it was pretty clever. I didn't, honestly, it took me a little while to figure out what was going on with that book. I just wasn't that tuned into it until obviously it blew up everywhere. But yeah, I don't really have an issue with them trying to revitalize something that they put together that maybe didn't hit the first time. But
again, transparency, as long as we feel like it isn't done in a manner that, you know, you're kind of, there's some fuckery going on there to quote Drunken Chat, you know, when there's fuckery afoot, it's kind of like, yeah. Hey, Dennis, I haven't asked you on yet, brother. I haven't asked you on yet. I've got, after I get these guys done with, I got, Jesse coming on. I want to have you on. We got some other people on that we're going to have on, so don't worry.
We talked about you last night coming on, so.
Yeah. So here's the other thing. I really hope that this doesn't kill the whole acetate thing, because I love acetate covers. I love Wizard Ace covers back in the day. I love that acetate, that cover that came out for that Sensational Comics variant from a con a few years ago for the Wonder Woman stuff. Like, there's some really, really good books and good ideas that can be done with those acetate covers. I really hope that it doesn't put the acetate cover, in its own grave. So
They just need to take notes from Panini over in Italy of how they're doing their acetate covers. Like if you ever see Rob like show off some of those covers, they're phenomenal.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
What was the first acetate cover? Anybody know?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
So I know there were acetate covers in the 90s.
Yeah,
big time. I came
Jim Lee had a few with Wildstorm, or
I thought it was like 86 to 88 area.
Yeah, and I think there were some publishers who I know were noting the popularity of this and kind of going, "Oh, acetate, that's what the people want." Mm-hmm. I think the key is just having it be an authentic, release. But the acetate gives you a lot of options as far as layering.
That's great.
Just looking at like our battle damage covers. I mean, you could have a bloody acetate cover that you then open up and it's not bloody. So it's kind of a before and after. There's a lot of fun you could do with that. You just we're not going to go do that aftermarket on like an Invincible book. And I have Big Clutch texting me in 5 seconds. So that's never something that we would ever
again.
It's so easy.
That's a perfect example about transparency. Like, listen, if Jack would have thought to do this or Whatnot would have thought to do this on the Invincible covers, they would have thought twice and been like, nah, I don't want to have fucking whoever, whether it's Clutch, it's Skybound, or some other publisher that you're doing to their books. I don't want to have them calling me and being upset over me fucking up their book. So like, why didn't that happen? It's so weird to say, why didn't it happen with this guy? Again, how long is Black Flag? Do we know how long Black Flag has been in the industry?
And I think that like Paul Diggs was asking if Black Flag is so unknown, how are they able to broker these deals? The truth is, they're unknown to me. I don't know. I don't have that answer to that question. I wasn't aware of this book until people were coming to the booth and showing me, look at this book that Clayton Crane's selling. And that's another part of this perfect storm. This is like the 5th convention in a row that there's been like a hot Clayton Crane book.
Yeah.
So I think people kind of got conditioned to like, you got to grab the Clayton Crane book at this convention. So I think that also kind of played into it a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Defenses were definitely down from the general buyer public.
Yeah.
How many 10s do you think are going to come out?
That's the question: is how are they going to grade these now versus?
Oh yeah,
because now this is why I say like making.
Here's where you start getting 9.2s and 9.4s, right?
So when they grade this, hold on real quick. Is it the acetate they're grading for the 10?
Or give them a 10 with a green label?
So yes, so they are grading the outside cover and they're treating it like a married cover and they're noting it on the label, but at the same point they're grading the acetate, which obviously lets the average newbie buyer, they're just looking at that grade. They're just seeing 9899.
See, CBCS says the opposite, right?
Yeah, and I think so like when people want to rush to a policy statement, that's where it's tough because like you got your 2 authentication bodies in comics,
right? But they were the CBCS. CBCS was the first to tell you how they grade the book.
Yes, they also saw an opportunity.
Exactly.
They
did see an opportunity, but
CGC taking punches.
I wonder who would have the right question: the originator of CGC and CBCS, right? If we asked him, how would you grade that book? I wonder, because he's not tied to anybody anymore.
Correct.
Right. So
I mean, this will be really interesting because I actually said this in a video I released this morning on my channel, that the additional copies we had on the convention floor, we submitted to CGC there on the floor, and I called them. I slept on it for a night after everything started coming to light. I called them and said, "Hey, I want to cancel this order." We all know right there on the paperwork, and you fill it out. One of the last things that it says is once submitted, you can't cancel, adjust, or change your order. And I'm like, okay, kind of extenuating circumstances here. I'm like, this is kind of where I'm sitting. We were working to do some charity work with the books, and the nicest lady I've ever talked to on the phone reminded me that we can't cancel, but she helped me fill out an appeal. That appeal was put in, and then less than 12 hours later, I wake up the next morning, the box is opened, received, submitted, and my books are scheduled for grading. I'm like, huh.
Yeah, the judge heard the case. It was denied.
So I at least at least called and tried, and I know where I sit right now, and I'm like, well, I don't have a choice. These books are coming back graded one way or the other, so I released that video to state that, and we are going to dig into this box when it gets back. And at the rate they're moving, it might not be too much longer.
What do you guys think about the prices, though, that people are still paying for this book? Do you think that the people who are, I'm asking this from a general curiosity, like, do you think the people that are buying this are aware of it and they don't care, they like the book? Or is it people who are
they're trolls? I think the majority of people who are putting in any types of bids on secondary markets like eBay, where I think that they've been given the okay that they can get out of it now, because eBay kind of has come out.
Yeah.
What are the real closing prices of this book right now? 300, 400? I mean, it got so nuts, like $1 million fucking bids. But like, what are they really going for?
It feels like in between $200 and $350.
$1 million.
There's some completed sales today for that 500 to 600 range. So
you saw, though, all joking aside, some people had bid these books up to $1 million, right?
Oh yeah, there were like there was a minimum of at least one that was well over $1 million. I thought I saw a second one, but they were pulled before I could get a picture.
There is I think we've been looking for comparables within comics, and that's tough because like this is such a unique situation. But there is a comparable within another collectible industry. So like last year, Lil Nas X released a Nike sneaker that was an existing Nike that had been put out, and then the aftermarket added an embellishment that had his blood in a vial. And they put these out. They were like numbered, I think, to 666 or something like that.
Yeah, super smart advertising.
Right. Yeah, and it worked, right? It was everywhere, it went viral. But Nike sent the cease and desist and shut it down. So Nike took a much stronger stance than Marvel's taken so far on the issue. But that is a more comparable thing, because even after Nike shut it down, these shoes are still in demand on the secondary market, and people are still paying. Yeah, huge dollar figures above asking price. So there is a level of like, I saw a comment about it being taboo and risky. Like there is a level of this where this is becoming so famous and iconic that I almost wonder if people won't view this as a talking piece collector's item of like, do you remember that book and the craziness that came from?
Do you remember the book that killed the hobby?
I hope it doesn't do that.
I have it. It's graded.
But let's be honest. Like I've had multiple people that I know that have bought a copy just to say, hey, you know what I mean? For $150 or whatever they're buying at the time was, it's not a bad buy-in with all the hoopla that's going over it. Like we said in the beginning of this episode, people, you make something taboo and people want it. They want it. I mean, a perfect example is that famous book where it's got Mickey dropping off pounds of narcotics from a plane. You know what I mean? Like people want, I want that book. I want to have that book. You know what I mean? Or, famous books like the Electra in skimpy, art on the inside, or the Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man book, the Universe X, whatever book, like these books that by the companies get taken off. Or
Milo Manero, Spider Woman, right? It tells all this time, man. People want the shit you're not supposed to have, without question.
Well, and that's why, like, when a lot of people came at us from a whatnot perspective and saying, like, you should do this or you should do that, and we were like evaluating all of these different answers. One of the things that like got brought to us, and we like took it seriously and like had the conversation of how would we go about this, was let's acquire as many of these as we can, take them off the market, destroy them. The problem with that is, like, even if you bought like 300 of them, you now lowered the print run. You now get a bunch of attention because you did that. You would almost increase the value of the copies that exist now on the market, and you would have the opposite impact that you were actually trying to have, because you'd bring more notoriety and more collectability to the ones that exist. So it's such a difficult thing that it's like those copies are out there. All 750 are out there. So
that's it. That's if they're 750.
Well, and that's
probably fucking 5,000 of them.
Maybe.
I mean, that's the thing is once you start, this where it's like how immoral of a decision was this? How does a person who would create an unauthorized product, would they also be a person who would?
It's not that I don't think that guy tells the truth. I just think he's a fucking liar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, we don't know. I don't know but a person who circumvented the rules like this is probably more likely to also circumvent those print runs.
Yeah. Let me ask Jack, what are your thoughts on any future cons that are coming up? What is Whatnot? Does Whatnot have any thoughts on how to has this whole thing changed anything on how Whatnot's going to be doing the con tour?
Probably not. Like our last 2 conventions this year will be Fan Expo Canada, which is like
amazing.
If you've never been to that, it's nuts. It's San Diego Comic Con for Canadians. It's incredible. And then the next one will be NYCC. Our convention presence has largely been a success for us. It's been a growth driver. I think I look at this incident as a very isolated incident, and one that, again, while the backlash sprayed us a bit, it wasn't truly anything going on a collaborative level. I think the big thing that we're going to take from it is I'm going to spend more time talking to sellers as they kind of rise through the system. You just, again, because he was here and being as transparent, open as he was, like a Skeff, he's being labeled an influencer, probably something he never thought would be a label that would get put on him. But I think as sellers grow and their notoriety grows, how you handle yourself on a con floor, and just knowing Comic Tom would never have been at the front of that line picking up bulk books because he would have already known. Everybody would have had his picture on social media. If Tom did that, you'd have seen it. The pictures would be out there. But some of our newer sellers who may not realize the popularity that they're kind of growing into, there's an etiquette and a way in which you have to kind of conduct yourself. So being able to have those conversations, and I look forward to us being able to have conversations like we're having here about this, where it's not so finger pointy and people, because to learn, you got to talk about it, but in the last week, it's been difficult to have those conversations. So I think at the next couple conventions, we'll really look to address that. And from our perspective, again, we just really laser focused on what we're doing within our footprint and trying to grow the app, because I truly believe that at its core, the app is making comic books more accessible to people in the United States and giving and abroad, and giving any creator out there the opportunity to do what is your passion full time. But I've seen so many creators go full time, Skeff being one of them. I remember the day he called me and told me he quit his job, how what a win day that was for him. So I want to see more and more people have the opportunity to do that. It has been life-changing for me. I know, Brian McClay, you've been through that. So watching people get to kind of take that step, I'm proud of what we've been able to do. With this growth and this attention, sometimes stuff like this, it's going to hit you and you just deal with it. Yeah.
I will say I've had a blast selling at the Whatnot booth, in MegaCon, just being in that dome and stuff like that. You get this I feel like you get this extra boost of energy. I just had so much fun doing it.
It comes through. I think you're right. I think I love watching all of you guys. I think first off, being on that elevated platform too, and having people kind of look up at you, and everything being presented properly from an audio visual standpoint. I think it's really kind of great to see the way, I think our convention, you can walk in and you also see people that you would never expect to see there together too. We all kind of have our little corners of the Whatnot world. There was even a picture with Nick from Key Collector and Ben from CBSI. And those are 2 people you would never expect to see in the same place ever.
Hey, listen, you're not going to like my views on that picture. I think that picture was ridiculous, and not because of you or Tom or Nick being in the picture. We can talk about that another time. But I will say this. I appreciate you coming on, man. You have made yourself very approachable for this, to answer questions and stuff. And this is the type of stuff we need from these publishers, from these companies, from retailers, from content creators, whatever. The transparency is going to help them, help your brand more than it's going to hurt, in my opinion. So thank you, brother. All right. I want to bring on a couple more people. You guys, Jack and Andy, you're more than welcome to stick around if you want. If you got to bounce. You guys know how it works here. Throw up the deuces and you're out. We're gonna continue to talk about this for a little bit. Jack, I know that you're at home for the first time in a long time and you got your kids there, so don't worry about having to bounce, man.
No, yeah, I appreciate you guys for sure.
All right, brother. All right, so let's. I want to send out a couple.
I'll see you guys.
All right, Hood. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man.
All right, later, Joe.
We want to try and bring on a couple more people. I know I definitely want to. We're doing our best to bring on Chris from Rip and Wax, who on whatnot, who is just, we really appreciate him. So if we get a chance to bring him on, we will. We're going to give away a hobby box as soon as we get a chance to get him on, because I really want to talk to him for more than anything, because I respect what he's doing over there. But he's
yeah. Let me check if he's still
and if he's still on, no worries, because I'm going to bring on Jesse James real quick from Jesse James Comics. I'm going to send out a link to him, and then I want to bring on Dennis at some point too, also here, to see what his feelings are on it post. Since we've all kind of been looking at it and that type of stuff. So let me do this real quick there. That being said, hey, make sure you guys are subbed up. I see we got 143 live right now, and it's pretty awesome to see. I see a lot of people talking about beating a dead horse. Shout out to Hartman, and people are kind of getting tired of this and that. But again, it's more important than quote unquote beating a dead horse or continue to talk about something like this that because you think it's bad, it's giving them advertising. It's more important to talk about how we learn from this. And to remember this. I think that's why it was so important last night that, it was on the Hot 10 list. Stein put it at number 1 because everybody is talking about this book. Everybody is there. Every third post on your social media is about what happened in C2E2. And we need to remember this. We need to not forget about this in 3 months. So,
well, now we can finally.
How could it not be the number 1 book on the fucking Hot 10? How could it not be? I mean, it's the only book anybody was talking about. So, anybody who gives Ben grief for that, I don't know, man. I got no time for it, because love it or hate it, it was the hottest book in the community last week. So, I think he was spot on.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to bring Jesse and Dennis on at the same time here. Dennis, I'm going to send you a link in the IG. And Mr. Longshort, you've been doing some really, you and Yee. I see you and Yee and Hood over there on Nearing Nirvana. You guys have been doing this great fucking show as of late. Talk about what's going on over there and what you got going.
Oh man, I wasn't ready for that. Thank you for the shout out. Yeah, we do a show on Thursday nights, and it's kind of a freeform show. We just talk about cool comics in the hobby that maybe other people aren't talking about. Tough to find books. Last week we did a cool segment on sketchbooks from artists. We just have fun. It's pretty relaxed, and the whole thing is maybe just talking about books that people don't see every single day. So it's we have some really good people on it. He runs the show. He's the best.
Thank you.
But, we got guys like, Rob's Comics on there, Rob Fordham. I mean, one of the smartest guys in the foreign game. Josh Allen, he hops on, does a lot of stuff with us in the foreign space. Mercenaut's on it. Joe is on it. So it's a pretty chill show, but it's just and the feedback's been great. Like, people seem to love it. But we're just talking about maybe some comics that you don't know about.
Which is what I love more than anything. I think that what most people really are yearning for when they watch shows or content, like this, is they're looking for stuff they don't know about. And especially those amazing things that they don't know about, it's like the first time you're going to Recalled Comics, or what I mean? Like there's a reason that exploring that newer stuff for these newer collectors is such a big deal. So
yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I agree. I mean, part of what there's a part of this hobby that people just want really rare stuff. It's not about value necessarily, it's just about scarcity, and that's kind of what we're hitting on a lot of the time. Not always. Sometimes there's really cool books that are readily available that maybe you don't know about, but by and large, we're just talking about books that are certainly off the radar for most. And we've had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, like I said, the feedback's been great. And if you want to check it out, it's on Nearing Nirvana, and we do it Thursday nights, but the replays are out there, and give it a look.
And sometime here in the near future, I've wrangled in Ben and Yi and whoever else wants to come hang out to do a little collaboration with them and their show. And funny enough, you guys, it's going to be keying in on some of the retailer exclusives over the last couple of years that have been really good, that have been just amazing covers by amazing artists and artists that you may not even know also.
Yeah. There's been so many good ones, and like there's a lot of hate, and I like to joke, like I actually run to the hate in this hobby. When all of a sudden people are hating something, it's right where I go is look for opportunities. Like when people are just hating on something, I go right there because there's going to be opportunity. But yeah, there's some beautiful ones. I mean, just off the top of my head, what was it called? The Great Wall of Comics did this amazing Planet Number 1 homage for Sabrina. I don't know if you guys saw it, but like it was limited to 200. Beautiful book. And I mean, this is what exclusive should be about. Like it's just an absolute stunning homage to a book that doesn't get the respect it deserves. Like maybe Dave Stevens' best cover. And they put an Archie themed Sabrina book, and it killed it, right? I mean, it was $25, 200, that's it. And it sold out, I think, within 24 hours. And just an amazing comic. So yeah, the retailer exclusive game gets a ton of hate, and I get it. I totally get it. But there's actually some diamonds, some huge diamonds in the roughs if you're willing to take the time to poke around.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, you guys, I've got two of the biggest in the game, two of the OGs in this game, two people who I respect immensely, that I ask for their advice as much as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesse James from Jesse James Comics and Dennis from Wonderworld Comics. We're going to mute Jesse while he's muting his YouTube.
What's up, guys?
What up, guys?
What's up, Dennis? Good to see you, buddy.
What's up?
How are y'all?
Jesse, how you doing, brother? He's trying to figure it out.
Before Jesse gets a chance to jump on it, I'm gonna jump on Jesse's topic. I'm already gonna jump on it. Can you hear me, Jesse?
Hold on. Let's make sure he can hear us. Oh, he's got his thing going. There he is. He'll come back. Go for it, Dennis.
So
you want to wait for him?
No, I want Jesse to be here when I steal his thunder on this one.
Yeah. So again, we're gonna wait for Jesse for a second.
Long short, I gotta say to you, your reports on IG are single-handedly, hands down, literally the thermometer for our
Well, man, that's super nice of you. I'm just doing them for fun. Shit catches my eye, but Dennis, thank you.
If you knew how many half-naked models I have to scroll through to see what long shorts I'm hitting me on, you would realize it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That is super kind. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, let me. I think Jesse's having an issue with his setup.
So real quick, I made this. Well, I had my partner Bob make this. And I really, I really want to show the entire community, the comic fam, so to speak, exactly why we cannot allow aftermarket acetates, and why Marvel will probably never allow anyone to do an aftermarket acetate. This is how easy it would be. To take Spider-Man meeting Obama and somebody saying, hey, you want, because I actually asked to do a Trump meeting Dr. Doom cover and they shot that one down in 2016. But this would have been how easy it would have been for me to just staple an acetate of Trump over Obama, and I could completely change.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Jesse said the same thing to me. That's funny. You guys both are like. That's why we get the OGs on. Jesse said, "What is the difference in if they change the flag, right? What you got there, Jesse?"
So basically, this is my Guinness Book of World Record book that we did about 5 years ago. And we had CGC follow us around and they got everybody's autographs on them. And so we submitted this is like their first print of the copy off the print from the presser. So we waited, they fast tracked it because they knew Guinness Book of World Records needed it back. Well, this is a perfect book, right? 9896, which is called 96. I got a 3.5. And the reason why I got a 3.5 was we had put the Guinness Book of World Records attempt sticker on the book because we had to put it on the book. So don't tell me about this acetate crap when I got a 3.5 on the Guinness Book of World Records. So there's proof, right? There's proof right there that these should not be what they're.
I want to beat you to the punch on this one because I was thinking about you all Friday and Saturday because of a conversation you and I had 11 years ago at San Diego. And I don't know if you know where I'm going to go with this, but Jesse and I had one of the best conversations that has stuck with me this many years, whatever year it was. Your brand is everything. You put your name of your company on a product, you best goddamn be behind it 110% because that is your name getting dragged through it. And we have seen 1 week of Black Flag. If you remember Friday, literally Friday, a week ago, 8 days ago, I couldn't even say their name properly. Yeah. Guess what? I branded it perfectly now because everybody in this community knows Black Flag is a piece of shit. Okay? So they put their name out there. They did this thing, and this is going to stick with them like flies on shit until they close that name and come up with something new. But yeah, Jesse and I have had this conversation off and on for 12 years, and I've heard Jesse telling retailers that. I've told retailers that. When you create a brand, you are married to that brand like a married page to a comic book.
Right. I tell this to people that on my eBay store, I have 82,000 lifetime feedback. I've never had a neutral. I've never had a negative. My hardest job is if I was ever to get a negative, my 82,000 feedback would be immaterial because people would only focus on that one negative. So your brand is the most important thing possible. I was laughing because I just did my 398th store exclusive, right? And I said, how far back do I have to go to actually be able to sell one? I have to go back 37 exclusives to find one copy that can actually sell. Your goal of doing exclusives is to sell out. That's the whole goal. If you can't sell out, or let's say maintain a 10% back inventory, then you shouldn't be doing exclusives. For this store to go back 2 years and say, well, we couldn't sell this and we couldn't sell this and we couldn't sell this, so let's add stuff on. Well, maybe you shouldn't be buying so many exclusives. And Dennis knows this, and most of the people in the community goes, every week I get calls from retailers across the nation. Hey, can you buy bulk from me from my exclusive I did? No. You own it. Sell it to your public.
I think that's such an important thing. And that was kind of one of the things that I was really trying to key in on earlier in the show is that the points that we take from this are so much more important than this book can ever be. And one of those points is the exclusive game is being watered down. And when you're making 3,000 copies of an exclusive, you need to put a lot of effort into that to know that that's not just going to be water this down.
100%, Brian. 100, 200%.
Well, and I'll say something because Andy knows I love Bolo and Bolo knows I love Bolo, but I saw it on his face when he was talking to you earlier. They know they have put their W on a few too many things and they are not hitting the value they should now. I just did a sale Friday and Monday of my Whatnot comps, and the amount of them that went for $5 with a $1 one minute open, it was kind of sad because these are good books, and a lot of retailers, they just want to be part of the game. you know, and we know everybody in the game, but there's just sometimes where it's like, why did you want to do this?
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
You know, and you see me, the last 3 or 4 books I dropped on his Drunken Chat, and I'm behind my books 100%.
Yeah. What are your let me ask this. What are your guys' thoughts on the acetate cover in general? Like, do you think that this has just messed up the ability to do something cool like that in the future? Because let's be honest, I'll be honest, I love the acetate cover. I've said it before. I think it's a great thing. It just has to be done right. I just don't want.
Well, keep in mind it's never been done before, right? So we're kind of traveling down this thing where Dennis knows, and I don't know if Dennis was in this meeting where Image had told me during the meeting, because I sold like 2,500 Paper Girl #1s, 25 Redneck #1s, and 2,500 Oblivion Song #1s. And so when it came to them doing exclusives, that person at that time said, Just James Comics will never do exclusive with Image Comics because you sell too many books, right? So when it was all said and done, I ended up doing 25 exclusives with them.
That person didn't work there much longer after that, did they, Jesse?
Right. No, they were gone because we went to Clutch and we went to a lot of people and said, listen, we spent a lot of money. We're selling your books. So at the end of the day, I was told, listen, you can't put your logo on the front cover. It has to go on the back cover. Well, my last 16 books have my logo on the front cover. So everything's about negotiating. So I think what we're going to see coming out of this is how do you negotiate with the big three, Marvel, DC, Image? Okay, we see what you've done. You've quoted Marvel said something, but you haven't actually done something. And that's the big difference. You can say all you want, it wasn't approved, but what are you then do to ensure that doesn't happen again? Is it Boston Con's fault for allowing Black Flag to even show up? I don't know whose fault it is, but I know if I owned a con and I knew this controversy was coming and that person was selling those books, I probably wouldn't want them at my con because, again, Boston has to protect their brand. So my final point to that is you will see this be allowed in the future. 100% you'll see this allowed in the future. Why? Because people in the big office will say, wow, we can make a lot of money off of this.
Yeah.
Well, long short, didn't you go to Boston Fan Expo on Friday?
Yeah, it's not a good con, man, for comic collectors. It's all other bullshit for the most part. Although Dan Parent is doing me a Gwenpool homage.
That's awesome.
It's going to be brilliant.
Yes.
What was going on? I'm sure you walked by the Black Flag table. What was going on at the Black Flag table?
Nothing. I don't think there was anything going on there at all. There was no line. I think they were giving out lollipops or some shit.
Yeah, which
Dumb suckers.
Yeah. Dum-dums.
How stupid can you be? That's it again. You guys brought it up. Your brand is so important, and you just put 2 black eyes on your brand, if not more. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's very sad.
Hey Brian, can we give away an acetate cover right now? Can I give away an acetate cover on the show right now? Is that okay?
Of course. What do we got?
All right, so I had this since I was a kid. This is a Wizard Ace edition acetate.
Yes.
A beautiful yellow Daredevil on the inside. You see that?
Yep.
Gorgeous. So yeah, an acetate
again,
cover.
Yeah.
Wizard Ace editions, some of the best books that have been out, and you guys, we're gonna give that away by the end of the show. We'll pick a comment in the chat.
By Marvel, the acetates were attached by Marvel. They were distributed by Diamond to Wizard. That's the way it's done.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys something. I'm glad I've got Long Short here too because of this. One of the things, and Jack brought this up, one of the things about the retailer exclusive game that is good and that we are seeing it help are a lot of these artists who are coming up, and have really gotten their name out there because of these exclusive variants. And a big person on that I think recently, and I don't know if maybe it's the exclusive game, but Jeff DeCall has just really, really blown up lately. As a matter of fact, Jesse gave us a bunch of books to give away. Jeff DeCall from the runs he was doing on, what was that publisher's name?
Take Two, I think.
Double Take.
Yeah. So So
Nice.
what do you guys think about the fact, with these artists and stuff? Do you think that there's a way for these artists to continue to, do well in the exclusive game without putting out so many copies?
I mean, the number of copies, that's limited to like Marvel and DC, right? I mean, they require you to do 3,000.
So it shouldn't matter to how much the artist makes. The artist makes money on his drawing, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I do with a lot of these covers personally is I go to the artists, because a lot of these artists will get allocated some from over the store, and I buy them directly from the artist personally. Like that is how I go about it. And when you can.
I have a relationship with one of my artists. I'm going to keep this as vague as possible, but everybody will figure out who it is. I have a relationship with one of my an artist who I do books through a company. And one time we were having a conversation at a con, and I think it kind of slipped on the backside. He said, I don't do this for the 1,200 such and such company does it for. I do this for you because you make my product, you make my name more important than the product it's on. And I was like, okay, but that told me a lot. An artist working for this company gets $1,200 to do a cover for them.
Yes. Yeah.
If they don't make the book themselves, they make $1,200.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do mine a little bit differently with my exclusives. I actually plan out exclusive about 3 to 4 months out. Whether it be with Murat Michaels, we've done about 25 covers with Murat Michaels. We always we figure out our comps with them. We figure out how to get them on the Binge Bar, my live streaming show. We figure out how to get them on Comic Book Shopping Network. Everything I do is legacy numbers. So my customer that orders from us, who is number 5, he gets number 5 forever. So when we figure out how many pre-sale legacies we have, we then determine our count, right? Other than Marvel and DC, obviously that's a different story. So we create a relationship with the creator from the beginning to the actual second we start selling it. So we had Marissa Pope, Mike DeBalfo, Big Dog Inc. all in the store at the same time, producing the show, getting our legacy customers out of the way, live streaming. I think we did 250 copies. We sold out in about 10 minutes. We had CGC right there. So I guess my point is, I don't do something with an artist and say thank you.
Yeah.
I'm with them to the very last second. And I will tell you, a good portion, probably 75% of my sales are created by that artist who's there to promote. And he, definitely he wants to sell out too. So that's a good thing for him. So I think everybody has to decide how they want to be vested in their exclusive. And if you vest yourself in the exclusive, you're just going to have awesome sell-throughs every single time and great relationships. I want to make one point though. The one point that's always missed in exclusives is a lot of cheesecake is out there, right? Strong women. That's where a lot of people have been very, very successful in, whether it be the E. Basses, the J. Scott Campbells of the world. So a lot of people have really started from that era of cheesecake and strong women.
So one of the things that we're also seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of artists just doing it themselves. J. Scott Campbell's a big name that he does all his books himself. What do you guys think about?
Can I say one thing real quick, Brian?
Yeah.
I said it in the chat earlier. First of all, I want to shout out Greg Horn had an accident. He's dislocated his shoulder. I want to send love out to him, everybody in the community. Send good thoughts and prayers out to Greg Horn.
One of the good guys.
Definitely one of the good guys. But Greg Horn did this better. He did my Venom variant where he actually put me on the cover of it, drew me in on that classic 121, Spider-Man 121. And I had to sign a release with Mark. That if you knew what it took for Greg to put my face on that cover, you would understand how I immediately knew
Marvel didn't okay it.
Marvel didn't okay this. Like, to put me on the cover, I had to sign an NDA.
Right.
I had to sign my likeness away to Marvel. I had to sign away if I was if they wanted to put me in the comic book, I had to sign away the rights to my likeness to be in a Marvel comic book.
Yeah,
So,
likeness rights, man. Jay and Silent Bob.
I almost didn't exist, and I think at any point they could pull that contract, and I could be a Marvel character.
Well, here's
which
where I'm going though.
But no, let me get back to Greg Horn real quick. Greg does something with his variants that a lot of artists don't do. When Greg gets a new variant, he draws the shit out of something really big. And if you ever look, you can probably look it up and find one on eBay. But he'll take up a quarter of the cover with a brand new piece of art on his art.
Yeah, She-Hulk 58 is where he started that. Yep. Really blew up. Yep, Red She-Hulk, right?
And then he gets it slabbed, and then he puts that on eBay, and it would go for $2,000 or $3,000.
But that's that's an artist doing a sketch on a cover. That's not an acetate.
Right. And I think we'd be talking a total if Clayton Crane had just busted out the red, white, and blue paint and painted on his cover. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's where I'm going with this. What are your guys' thoughts on Clayton Crane and if he was a part of this? I mean, he hasn't come out and said anything, and that's his right. I think it's probably pretty smart that he hasn't come out. I feel bad if he missed these cons because of some type of death in the family or for whatever reason, because he's missing out on a lot of money. But a lot of people want to hear from him. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, he did that remark on a ASM 129 where he redid like Spider-Man and stuff like that, where it's the black suit, and I think he did something on Punisher as well. And I want to say that sold for like $7,000 before it was even graded, which is, to me, that's like completely insane, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want anybody doing that on my Punisher 120 or my Spider-Man 129.
Yeah, it's not like he's the only artist that's ever done that either on classic books, where they had nothing to even do with the book. Like, you see like remarks done by like Rubenstein and Mayhew on like Hulk 181s and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's like,
the one thing about that, and I just want to bring up real fast about history, right? When grading first came out, if you had a store stamp on your cover, that was a negative, right? And then all the industry got together and said, no. Back in the day, they store stamped their books because they needed to know what was returnable in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? So then what happened was it was a negative if someone signed your book. But then the grading company said, well, if we witness it and we charge you, then that's okay. Then remarks came, right? Oh, no, can't do remarks. That's a negative. You're defacing the cover. But then they realize, hey, if we charge you, we make a lot of money, so go ahead and do these remarks. So our history has always evolved pertaining to money, right?
It always will.
World history, man. World fucking history.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Human history.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. Let me ask you. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
I want to say, because there's a lot going on in the chat about Clayton. Honestly, I don't know what Clayton had to do with this, but I'm sorry, man. It looks like that whole acetate cover was designed in Photoshop by somebody with very little talent. I don't think Clayton Crane would have put the white and red stripes inverted. I don't think he would have just drawn a flag with Miles holding it. I think that was all laid out, and they said, hey, Clayton, we got 750 of these leftover facsimiles. We got to figure out a way to move it. And Billy over here in the shipping department came up with this idea. Maybe you might be cool with this. I don't know. But we're going to make an acetate where he's and we're going to wrap it in the American flag. And he's going to be holding a folded flag. And it's going to look like his dad died. Because that's what I thought. When I first saw that cover, I was like, oh, shit, did his dad die? Is that him getting the flag, for his dad getting shot, because his dad's a cop? So I didn't know what was going on. But I thought the colors were off. I thought the red didn't even look like an American flag red.
The whole art and the design of the acetate cover felt like it was a non-professional doing it. It felt
right.
like
that's what I'm saying. I think Skippy over in the graphic design department of Black Flag laid this out sent it to Kinko's, and they printed it, and Clayton's like, hey, did you sell all those? Oh, cool. Send me my check. You know, and but then CGC comes out and goes, well, we had a conversation with Clayton. Really? Because I kind of just think Black Flag gave you 10 copies of this, told you they were doing something cool. You slapped a bunch of 9s and 10s on it because they're good buddies of yours. Oh, I heard this is some tea, and I heard this firsthand from one of the influencers on at C2E2. Does everybody who knows who the #1 moneymaker for CGC is in signatures on comics through private shows?
Oh God, that's a great question.
Is it?
No, it's easy. No, this was the easy one.
Is it J. Scott Campbell?
Nope. Jesse knows.
I know, but I don't want to be wrong live on air, so I'm going to defer. Yeah, Todd McFarlane, right?
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
So
yeah, I just can't remember if he approved his signatures or not. Yes, correct.
CGC makes the most amount of money by having Todd McFarlane sign books. Like, that's the biggest check they make. Does anybody know who the #2 person is?
No.
Mm-mm.
Is it Eastman?
Kind of obvious.
Frank Miller?
Clayton Crane.
Clayton Crane. Yeah.
So if Clayton Crane, the #2 autograph moneymaker for your company, his representative calls you up or sends you an email saying, hey, Clayton's got a new...
I need a fast track 10 books. Yeah.
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 Do you think they're going to say, oh, well, we need to confer with Clayton on this, whether it's authentic or not? Can you have Clayton give us a call? No.
What do we want from the grading companies out of this? Like, what you know, what are we going to be okay with when CGC comes out and says, hey, you know, we're trying to be a little bit transparent here, or, you know, this is how we're looking at it. They recently put out, it's like they flip-flopped twice in a day.
They have quadrupled down on this.
Yep. Yeah, I will tell you this. Everything in the comic book industry, I've been selling books for 40 years, had the store going on 14 years. Everything comes down to the consumer, and the consumers then have to be the one to make the final judgment on this. They're either going to support it, they're going to take their money someplace else to another grading company, but I think their measures will tell people just how important this. I'm going to give you a prime example. Here's a prime example. This year, before the show came on, I saw how many customers that I rung up in the store from Sunday to Friday night. We rung up 770 customers. Then I went to my binge bar sales and we sold 1,230 books. So let's just say that's 650 customers over the last 7 days. Do you know how many people asked me about this?
No one, probably.
0.
Yeah.
Right? Because mainstream has already moved on to next week.
Mm-hmm.
They've already moved on to next Tuesday and Wednesday, what new books are coming out, what's hot. And so I think at the end of the day, what CGC has to understand is consumers are then be the one that dictates how successful they are in the future when it comes to issues like this.
Where do you spend your money?
But
where you spend your money?
There's a lot of people looking at this as a future projection. I took a little crap on IG from a couple people. I shared out when Key Collector actually spelled out the controversy. And you know how, guys, you know me, I've been on this show. I've accused Dinesh and Bad Idea and Key Collector and Adam !Freeman of all being in bed together with Comic Tom and all those guys. And I still don't necessarily disagree with that. But this is kind of Alex Jones on the stand here. I don't disagree with that. But Key Collector, in the middle of all of this, spelled out the whole controversy and put a $0 value on that. That's to me, biggest pessimist in this business, the biggest hater, the king of the player haters ball of comics. That's a step in the right direction.
Amen.
Yes. Yeah, I talked to Nick about it last night too, and he was very conscious to how he projects the business, right? Yeah. People are going to his app and they're making conscious decisions to buy. So there are a lot of steps that have to be taken here. A lot of it comes down to a business owner in the comic book world who slings comics has to listen to their customer base, and they have to sell to that customer base to what they think is important at the time. Right. So this is important, I think, for the four of us on the screen right now. This is important for our industry, but a vast amount of customers, they're already trying to figure out how they're going to pay for their $3-4 books next Wednesday.
But Jesse, I get that, and that's you smack a dog, and an hour later they don't remember what they got smacked for. There's a few of us who have to linger to make sure that we've seen all of this before. I don't know how many times I'm blue in the face from every fucking gimmick from Bad Ideas, all being talked about as if it was the greatest idea ever. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are agreeing with the key collector stuff, and I will say this, and I'm going to double down on this, and I've said this a couple of times on a couple of shows right now. I don't have a problem with Comic Tom. I've never met Comic Tom to dislike him. I have respect for Bolo and whatnot for how they've come on here. They put themselves out available for this. And Nick has always been very stand up, talk to him on the phone type guy. He's been really good to me. I've never had any issues with him. And I think that that guy's just so busy, working on his app that he doesn't pay attention to a lot of it. But this is what I'm talking about. This is the type of stuff that I meant yesterday on the top 10, where I said, remember this book. Remember the changes that are going to happen. Like, we need to talk about that. And
I forget none of this, and I will bring it up ad nauseum from this point forward.
And again,
Black Flag to me, I'm sorry, 20 years from now, I'm still bitching at Nikki Barucci for screwing up the John Wick release. I'm still bitching at, there's so many people I hold a grudge against. And luckily, CGC did this to me 11 years ago. And if it weren't for CBCS 7 years ago starting, I wouldn't be grading books, period.
Yeah.
But if you lose your good opinion with me, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. Once people start making money, and once money gets involved, it changes the way a lot of people handle things. And
integrity goes right down the fucking drain most of the time, man.
Yep.
Well, and your reputation is the only thing you can't buy.
That is, and again, it goes back to what you talked about in the beginning about, you guys talking about how important your brand is,
right,
and how important your reputation is. It means so much more than any amount of money that is going to come in over the next couple of weeks for you. Let me tell you that. That's
right.
Definitely for sure.
And one thing I want to say, and sometimes this I shoot myself when I say this, just because you sell comic books doesn't mean you're in the comic book industry. It's what you actually partake in the comic industry that makes you part of the industry.
Well, and Jesse, you and I have been front and center on so many of these issues that I honestly believe steered a great big part of this industry in proper directions at proper times. And other times the freight train was too far out of control. Even you and me and half a dozen of us together couldn't steer it. Like with the digital comic thing with DC back in 2011 for New 52. But you and me against Archie, when they did that Kickstarter to put books in Walmart, that I heard a publisher we both know talking about that outside in the smoking area one time, and they didn't know I was right over to the side of them when they were talking, and that scared the fuck out of a lot of these smaller publishers to not cross that line. Because if Dennis and Jesse, and I can't remember, was George in on that one with us?
Yeah, sure.
If the two of us and a couple other small retailers could literally ask Spank Archie, what would we do to them?
Yes, and if that was a great year and a great learning lesson for me, because I didn't know they were a judge for Eisner Awards that year. So that year I was up. So they told me they got my proposed, and it just went to the side real fast.
Yeah,
but
I had Chris Powell as my diamond judge the year I got to the.
There you go.
Everyone thought I was going to win. Yeah. Then after that, I was like, all right, this is fucked. I
Yeah.
ain't doing this again.
Well, a fun fact for everybody out there is last time I talked to Jeppy, he had informed me that there was about 2,400 store owners that equal about 3,100 stores nationwide. I don't know about Europe if you want to add that in, but we know just on eBay alone, there's over 60,000 people that sell comics. So now you add live streaming, right? Everybody that sells live streaming. So we probably have around 75,000 plus people, and I'm just grabbing that number out of the air, that sell comic books, right? But we only have 3,000 comic book stores. There's only 17,500 cities in the United States. So comic books,
Jesse, the fifth market.
The fifth market, okay, yeah. So yeah, there you go. The fifth market, the fourth market. So we're kind of the smallest part of the market. So when this stuff comes out, it's a challenge for a comic book store. We have to sell today, and then when we finish selling today, we have to sell tomorrow. There's not a week between C2E2 and Boston where we're not doing anything. We're always selling. Everybody on here knows you always have to be selling. So you got to look at these issues. You got to protect the industry the best you can, but you also got to protect your brand. You also got to sell comics.
Hey,
Amen.
Jesse, real quick. You said there's 3,100 comic shops in the country. I just want to make sure.
So, right. Yeah. So there's about 2,400 comic book store owners, but you have Phil
You're
and
missing a key word though, Jesse. It's account holders.
yeah, account holders. There you go. Account holders.
But at least 500 of those are still legacy club accounts of people
Right.
ordering onesies and twosies.
Right.
So
exactly.
I never count them as real shops.
Okay. So if you take Phil at Coliseum, he has 10 stores. So even though you got 2,400, it comes out to about 3,100 stores. That's not a lot of stores. Dennis, when I started there was 8,000 stores. So Dennis, there had to be way more stores when you started.
No. I didn't start until 2005. And
Okay.
at that time, there were 2,000 accounts down. The height was 94 with 10,000 accounts.
Right.
Between Friendly Fank. When they merged all the accounts together over at Diamond, there was 10,000 accounts.
Right. Right.
What do you how many stores do you think that we've lost in the last 3 years?
Well,
For
they'll
brick and
never tell us.
mortar stores.
They'll never tell us. And that's why, Jesse, I will disagree with your numbers, because I had a meeting with Image during the Vegas Retailer Summit 2 Vegases ago. And he quizzed me and he was like, Dennis, let me ask you a question. How many Diamond accounts, and he prefaced this in the right way.
Right.
How many Diamond accounts do you think order the regular issue of The Walking Dead?
Right.
And I was like, I don't know, all 2,000? And he goes, 1,500. And
Yep.
I was like, wow, that seems kind of low. So that means there's 500 accounts that don't order Walking Dead individual. That's interesting. How many people, he goes, Dennis, how many accounts do you think order volume? And I think it was like volume 22 or volume 23 of the Walking Dead trade paperback. And of course, I'm ordering them 5, 10 at a time. So I just assume, I don't know, 1,200? He goes, 500.
Yep.
So at that time, there were only 1,500 accounts out of 2,000 that were ordering a single issue of Walking Dead 125, whatever that was.
Right.
There was
Sure.
only 500 accounts that were ordering Walking Dead trade paperback 22. You know, that to me is a real comic shop. If a real new comic book store, in my opinion, carries, obviously not Walking Dead now, but carries a trade paperback of the most popular comic book series in America and the regular issues of the comic book, because like I said, I was ordering 25 and 5 or 10.
Right.
So, and then I had, and big love to Bill from Diamond Outside Sales. We lost him a couple of years ago. But Bill was like, I was bitching about Hibbsy up in San Francisco. And he was like, Dennis, why do you keep bitching about Hibbs? He's literally orders a quarter of what you order every month. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, he's basically a bookstore. He's not even really a comic book store. And I was like, get out of here. At that point, I was ordering 4 times with Brian Hibbs, the leading retailer on all discussions. was ordering of regular comics. So there's kind of a shell game, a big house of cards.
Sure.
In our industry.
But I think to Brian's question, that's a question that's very hard, because I know a lot of stores that closed their stores and went right to live streaming. And because listen, I have an 8,000 square foot store, and I still sit here and say, what the hell am I doing with an 8,000 square foot store where 85 to 90% of my sales every week come from live streaming?
Yeah.
Now, me and Dennis know that answer, because we want the store to buy product that comes in, right? So you need the product to come in to sell that product. But most stores that went out, a good portion did go to live streaming, went to eBay, other sources to sell books. So I would say the nutrition rate was the people that really knew how to do business, sell-throughs, bottom lines, their prop P&Ls. Those are the guys that stayed. The other people that were just kind of like, you know what, I still want to sell comics. I like it. I want to make some money on the side. They're still selling comics. And I think that's that bulk number that I'm now telling you about versus, that minority of store owners.
Well,
there's a big difference.
I'll give you another secret too. Diamond keeps your account open if you still owe them money too. So a large number of those accounts that are open might not be ordering books. They might only have their open account so Diamond can put them in collections.
Right. And that's a big portion of stores there. So, but I think at the end of the day, listen, the stores that are left are strong stores. The stores that are coming in seem to be a little bit smarter. I think they have.
I said it 10 years ago. These people, they're gonna drop the A-bomb on us. The publishers, the industry in and of itself. You see a lot of rats scurrying to the dark corners of our business model. The ones that are still left after, and I said this before COVID, the ones that are still left after COVID, we're the toughest motherfucking cockroaches you're ever going to try to stomp on. And at some point, we will all get together and we will stomp back.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. I really want to do my best, and Jesse and Dennis know this, and so does Yee and Longshore and everybody involved here. I really want to do my best to, give people some of this industry information and give people, let's open some of the eyes and give some of the stuff that they aren't usually getting. Talk to some of these, OGs in the game, some of these young retailers. We got Bird City and Hive and all those guys on the show all the time. It's very important to get different points of view on different topics from all different types of people and conversations like that. So I appreciate it. Before we go tonight, I want to bring
up, hey, Brian, can I bring up one more point real fast? One point that you guys were talking about earlier was the notion of pre-sales at a show. I'll be honest with you, and I'm someone that has done this for 13 years now. I pretty much have all my buys for a show done 2 to 3 weeks, even before the show starts. So this is not, so anybody out there that thinks that this is brand new, that they're selling behind the table to these retail, that's drastic thinking. This has been going on forever. Dennis knows the game. Longbox knows the game at San Diego. If you don't have your pre-orders in, you ain't getting jack. That's just the way business works for retailers. So
no, Jesse, one more thing though, and you're the one that cued me to this, but I could never take advantage of it because I have to fly all the shit back to Detroit.
Right.
These motherfuckers have stacks and stacks of shit left, even after they were going limit 2 per person. And Jesse would pull his fucking beat up pickup truck or van up to the back of the San Diego
Buy it all.
Center and be like, I'll buy that for $100 a case. And they're like, okay, we just
take it off.
Take it.
Yep.
And
that's how business is done.
You smart little fucking cockroach motherfucker.
Hey, that's why we have them on, brother.
I think I've
one of the best.
Yeah, I think I've said it on before on a different show, but I was like, the real con happens before the con actually starts.
Yep. So
well, but and not to beat that dead horse too much, but Jesse and I also know that when we get those fucking deals, you got to be fucking cool about it.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't be an asshole. Nobody wants to deal with an asshole.
If you walk up and skip over the line, I would always just walk back behind and see my publisher guys like, hey, you got that 20 for me? Yeah, you know what? Come back in an hour.
Yep.
And they would have it in a bag, and boom, 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 it was done. But to walk up and do the business and use the credit card at the table, which means you did not prepay for this, you did not, and then to haul a short box away, they were not cool about it, and that's why they're all getting spanked.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And maybe and hey, they're new in this thing. You got to learn somewhere. And sometimes when you get burnt by fire, you really know it's hot. So maybe people will learn from this, including people that are buying, that are spending money. I mean, again, we'll say it again, you want to beat a dead horse. How you spend your money is important. That's the horse to beat right here. So, all right, let me ask before we let you guys go, Jesse, you've got some cool things going. Obviously, we've talked about Comic Book Shopping Network on here many times, Binge Bar. You've got some pretty interesting things going on in that world. What's coming up for you?
So we're getting ready to celebrate our 1,150th show tomorrow. So we're very excited for that. We did 2 special buys for that show, very unique buys. So the great thing about live streaming is we've learned, just like I'm standing here with my presentation behind me, is about 80 to 90% of the sell is the presenter themselves. The other thing is just the product, right? And our job is to get people to buy product that they didn't know they needed. That's pretty much a live streaming show. Yeah, you can pre-do some shows and all that. Comic Book Shopping Network just celebrated its 10,000th live show. So we're very excited about that. And we just added 4 new shows. We are going into a new live stream division called Comic Book Shopping Network Ultra. We are not calling it Plus, it is now called Ultra. And it is pretty much perpetual inventory live streaming, which means if you watch this video today, 2 years from now, you can go back to that video, see what's left in that video, hit the button, see it live as if I'm selling it to you right now, and press the buy button as if you're buying from me live 2 years ago when that was made. So we're going into this next realm of live streaming. It's fun. We end up being a company that will be, let's say we have $1,000 book and you want it, you can create a payment plan with that company within a couple of seconds. I get paid. Their job is to collect from you. So that's where we're going. Other than that, we are announcing a new convention May 6th, Free Comic Book Day in Glendale, Arizona. So very exciting stuff. Other than me moving to Orlando, flying back to the store once a week every month going forward, we're ready to go. We're ready to sling some books. Comic book therapy at its finest. We thank you for your time.
And ladies and gentlemen, I will be taking part in that comic book therapy soon. So you guys can find me on that whole bag of goodies here soon. So I'm really excited about that. I'll be selling books and collectibles over there also. So appreciate you, Jesse. I want to ask Dennis real quick.
Let me shout out what I've done over the last week.
Well, let me ask you. Hold on, let me ask you, Dennis. You've got some really cool stuff coming up. What do you got going on?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Last weekend was a real eye opener for me, and I call it my black pill. It really was my black pill. As you know, if you follow my IG, I have fucking tons of books. I have more books than I could ever grade or ever sell.
More collectibles, I'll say.
And collectibles, yeah. I really don't even show the toy side of it at all, because it takes so much time to prep that stuff. And I barely have. Right now I say I barely have time to buy the shit, let alone sort it and sell it. So, and I've been looking for somebody to come into the company and do that for me, but you just can't. It's impossible. Plus, half the people you hire are thieves. So, with that being said, I really just took the black pill on Sunday coming back from the con, and I said, you know what? Fuck this. I got to get back out there. I've got to, have my voice heard every day. So I started up my daily D at 3, but I used to do it on Facebook. And if you go to my Facebook page, Dennis L. Barger Jr., you can watch every once in a while when I watch one of my old daily Ds, I'll put it up and go, wow, I was a fucking genius. I predicted all of this. Like the one I just shared a couple days ago was me telling everybody, why aren't you buying Paper Girls? And why aren't you buying, just stupid stuff like that, where I knew exactly where the industry was going and what was going to be hot. And I was dead on the entire time. Now I'm doing it on Whatnot while I'm just selling off everything. I don't care anymore. I just don't. I was selling Bronze Age X-Men for $10 and $15 a piece on Thursday's show. I just don't care, because the thing is I can get about 25, 30 books in an hour. I'll just start doing it every day. I'm doing a Spawn show next week. I'm doing a Spider-Man Miles show next week, a Star Wars show. And so every day at 3 o'clock, I'm just going to grind it out every day at 3 o'clock. I'm going to tell you my opinion on whatever happened before that. I'm just going to spill it just honestly, just like I do right here, guys. And I do it on Whatnot, and Jesse, I know you totally made great, strides with yours. I just don't have the time to write a Post-it note with who's doing it and chase people down for money. Whatnot does all that for me. I'm very happy with that. I have Bob program the sale. I just get on and talk. They start it, and I just don't even care anymore. I'm just gonna talk and just dump books. I don't care. So come and be a part of the insanity. And I'm going to be starting my YouTube shows back up. And I believe I'm talking to a couple people about doing shows for new channels.
Yeah.
So
hey, Dennis, I want to bring up one point and then I'm going to jump off. It's okay, folks, to team up with other stores. All right? It's okay to team up with other stores. Me and Dennis came together to do an Amazing Spider-Man #1 exclusive together 13 years ago. So to be live right now.
But I will tell
awesome.
you, Jesse, one of those guys on the back of that thing did us dirty. And that, we had 6 names on the back of that, and one of them fucked us.
Well, that's why that guy isn't here right now.
Yeah, that's why he's not here. But the funny thing about this, folks, is our friendships last forever. We might not agree on everything, but this community, when it comes together, it rocks. So everybody have a good night. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, later, guys.
Okay.
Jesse and Dennis, thank you. I'm going to end this show, gentlemen. Listen, Yeezy Yee has been in a cannabis-induced coma for 2 hours and 36 minutes. I will say that.
Bastard. Lucky bastard.
Yeah, people say I'm not talking. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got a quick book to give away, ladies and gentlemen. We have 19 entries because not enough people know that how you win this book is by commenting in the live feed. So we got a couple minutes to show you said book. Let's show it one more time there, long short.
Hold on. What did I do with it? Oh, it's right here.
The acetate book, the real acetate
book. And this
book,
is J. Scott Campbell on top of that. It's acetate, but it's also J. Scott Campbell. So anybody.
Beautiful. Wizard Ace edition. All right, you guys, this is what we're giving away. We're going to give it away here in a couple of minutes, so make sure you are commenting. I want to remind everybody to sub up if you're not subbed up. Hit that like button. Let us know what you guys want to see, what you guys want from this community, what you guys want from content creators. I want to know. I'm going to do my best to bring you guys that. And that being said, if any of you guys are going to be in Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con, I will be there. Let me know. I would love to shake your hand, buy you a beer, or take part in a smoke circle. One of these days coming up this next week. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So I will see you in Seattle if you're gonna be there.
Hey, it's in Seattle, so
yeah, exactly, baby.
You don't have to worry about it.
I'm looking forward to it. So also, I think we're gonna really try and get back to Baltimore this year. We'll see how that works out. But that being said, make sure you follow these two guys. Anybody you guys see come on this channel, I would appreciate if you give them the respect that they deserve. I'm going to do my best to continue to bring you people that are good parts of this community, that this community needs to hear from. That being said, here is the giveaway winner. Rob, there we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Hit me up on IG. Congrats.
Yeah, Rob's a great dude. Really appreciate him. Really stoked he won. Rob, hit up Long Short on IG, and he'll get that out to you. What do you guys got coming up? You got any sales coming up?
I am selling comics and cards tomorrow, so Sunday night. So I want to see if that works out on, just doing some other comics I have, and some good old fashioned American cards, right?
Yeah, amen. Ben, what do you got coming up?
I got nothing other than our show that Yi and I do on Thursdays. Just talking about comic oddities for the most part. So check it out. It's on Near Nirvana.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
We have a good time, and check it out if you like to hear about books maybe you're not hearing about every other day.
Amen.
Or even hear me play guitar sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron will rip every super chat. He jams it out for us. So we have fun. It's a good group of guys and gals, and check it out.
Great. All right, you guys, you could find me tomorrow. I have my Star Wars sale. You're going to start seeing me on Jesse's comic book shopping network and the new Ultra that he is working on soon. I will be doing that Sunday nights. I think hour and a half every Sunday night. So I'll let you guys know it's the first time that starts. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun over there. I plan on selling a lot of goodies and at a quick pace. Learn from the best. So that being said, I will see you guys soon. Adios.